Wouldn't recognize the turn even if I seen it. Been driving all along, feel like I'm dreaming. Okay.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Street Apologists Live and happy Resurrection Sunday. Today is Sunday, April 9th, 7:18 p.m. here Pacific time. Happy Resurrection Sunday. And let me go ahead and get all that taken care of. Okay. Today we're going to be talking to a guest who calls himself a Shia Hebrew Israelite. That is a practitioner of Islam as a Muslim, specifically Shia, and still believes they're an Israelite, but then also wants to let everyone know why he thinks Paul was an Edomite. It is Rabbi Lewis. We have had him on once before, maybe 4 years ago, for a very interesting conversation, and he's back tonight. Give it up for Rabbi Lewis. Okay, join the program, brother. You got to unmute yourself and jump on in. We'll be glad to talk to you. While he's doing that, consider becoming a patron of this channel, patreon.com/vocab, or a channel member. And also, I did make an announcement the past couple of days that now on Facebook, you can send something called stars. And that's essentially their version of Super Chat, although it can be on any video or any post. And then on Instagram, there is something now called GIFs, GIFTS. Not like GIFS, but GIFTS, okay? And on those GIFs, it only works on Reels. And we've already tested the stars thing, but we have not tested the GIFs. I need someone at some point to hit me up and say, hey, let's try this GIFs thing out on IG for the Reels, because we do need to test that out. Okay, yo, Rabbi Lewis, I got you here, but you're still muted, bro. Yeah, okay, there you go. Everyone, give me a 1 if you can hear Rabbi Lewis. Rabbi Lewis, tell people briefly about who you are in your theological journey before we get started.
Testing, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, bro. Tell everyone.
Yo, regime, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, and they were allowed the most merciful, the especially merciful. I bear witness there's no God but Allah. Muhammad's message. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Islam, alhamdulillah. My name is Rabbi Lewis. A little about me. My background is in parapsychology. Student Dr. Hudler Clark, investment banking and Arabic studies. What an honor.
Okay, well, thank you for wanting to come on and talk about this today. When you say you're Shia, why do you say Shia as opposed to just Muslim?
Certainly. Wow, it's a big question. It's also a big answer. You know, there's different, just like there's different denominations of what we call Christianity. It's the same thing with Islam. It's the same soup reheated. You know, let's use musical terms. That's overdub, right? There's different sects. You got Wahhabis, Sunnis, Shias, Bakris, Nasibi. You know, the works. You know.
Okay, so, and you haven't always been a Muslim? Before you would just be a Hebrew Israelite, but now you accept both identities. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I took an Arabic course when I was 19. I was a Hebrew Israelite, but I was studying Arabic. You know.
Okay. Anything else you want to share before we get started here? I'm looking at the live chat. People are here. I'm glad that you guys are here. I think we'll have an interesting discussion tonight. So I just want everyone to know off the bat, I'm going to let him speak, but I am not claiming Paul was an Edomite. I think that contradicts Scripture. I don't think it's right. However, Rabbi Lewis does, so we'll let him give his perspective on why he thinks that. And I just want to let you guys know, if you search on the internet for Paul Edomite, believe it or not, quite a few people claim this. So I know you guys might be like, well, he's the only one. Actually, he's not the only one. And so I know it sounds different and interesting to cover this, but remember, there's other people who hold to it. Okay, go ahead. The floor is yours. Why do you believe Paul is an Edomite?
Wow, big questions. That's the big answer. I thought I was going to talk about my website first, or I don't know if that's.
You want to talk about your website first?
Yeah, put the cart for the horse, right?
All right. Well, I just hope people stay tuned in. Maybe we could talk about the website like maybe a few times, like where we go back to it or something like that. You know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem.
Maybe. Okay, so he does want to talk about his website. I'll let him talk about his website briefly. Everyone hang in there. I'm flipping over to the internet view. Okay, I've got your website on the screen here, Lewis, and everyone can see it. it looks like you've got an electronics store.
Yeah, I drop ship. So this is my new website. I started a couple months ago.
Okay. What do you want to say about it?
Yeah, you can just if you just put the link in the chat, you can shop at my store. We got laptops, iPhones, we got TVs, we got bicycles, all kind of really cool stuff. It's my website, rabbilewis.com.
And you're on Shopify, correct?
Yeah, Rabbi Lewis 123.myshopify.com, my website.
All right, I will drop it in there. And I'm just now learning a little bit about your website, but I will say that I have heard good things about Shopify itself. You think I should jump on Shopify too?
I would advise that if you ask me for investment, if you ask me for my opinion
Okay.
or my advice, sorry, better word.
I got you. Yeah, I have heard good things about Shopify. And does your website really have anything to do with your apologetics or your theology, or is it kind of just a separate business venture?
Separate business, but separate business.
Okay. And what will be the benefit if people go there?
You're gonna have an awesome e-commerce experience. Welcome to the future.
Okay. All right. Well, we're showing it here on the screen, and everyone should be able to. Wait, actually, let me jump back over to it. Make sure that people can see it. And how long have you been on Shopify?
I had a store before this one with a company called Pier One. I don't know if you heard of Pier One.
Yeah, I have. Huh?
Yeah, my mentor Tal Lopez, he purchased Pier One during the. I don't want to say the wrong word. He purchased Pier One and Dress Barn. You're familiar with Dress Barn, right?
Yeah. Huh. Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to say the wrong word.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, it looks like you got some discount codes and coupons people can take advantage of.
Oh yeah, brother. Yeah, brother. We got all kind of coupons.
And
sign up for the newsletter. Get the news. Subscribe to the newsletter.
I got a
You'll
newsletter.
Get some. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we could talk about that once too before you leave, if you'd like.
Certainly.
Okay, I'm gonna flip back over, unless you got anything else for that, and hear your reasons.
That's about it.
Okay, we can flip back over at a later time. Okay, so why do you believe that Paul is an Edomite?
Okay, let's dive in. Head over heels. It's over my head like a cable car, right? But anyway, seriously, I'm a published author myself as well. I read over 50 books. I have.
Okay.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
You said you published over 50 books?
Correct. On Amazon, just type in Rabbi Lewis.
What happened to that book against the Shield Squad? I tried to go buy it the other day, but it's not online anymore.
It's not online. It should still be there.
So I could still purchase it?
Yeah, I wrote a book about you guys. Oh, I forgot to tell you about that. Also, your buddy Robert Spencer, right?
Yeah.
I wrote an academic response. He wrote a book called Muhammad Exists, right, for your audience. It may not be privy, right? You're familiar with that book, right? Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
He said because there were no the Shahada, there was no coins with the Shahada on them during the Umayyad Caliphate. Therefore, Rasulullah never existed. You familiar with that hermeneutic?
Yeah, I've heard him talk about that.
I did a response book to his book called Proof Muhammad Existed, an academic response to Robert Spencer. Now, he never responded to me. He was very rude to me. He was like, yeah, Lewis, this is 3 years ago, right, guys? He's like, yeah, Lewis, you have no custom reviews on your book, so you're a troll,
So is the book you have against us called Is Circumcision Judaizing? Who Are the Gentiles? Shield Squad Debunked?
Yeah, that's the book. It's still up there?
Yeah, it looks like it, but what happened to the cover? You had a cover that had all of us on it. I don't see that cover anymore.
Yeah, brother. This was 5 years ago. Can I say her name?
Yeah.
Sister, can I say her name? Cherry Love. She told me to take it down, Lewis, before I sue you.
Oh,
so I had to take the picture off of it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love Cherry Love, but I don't think she could probably sue you for that, to be honest. I like the old cover better, to be honest. But hey.
Could you pull up the Spencer book real quick?
The scripture book? What you mean?
The Spencer book I did about Robert Spencer. Your buddy.
Oh, okay. We'll look at your books real quick here. Shout out to Jay Fry in the super chat for the J Fry in the live chat for the super chat. Appreciate that. That's a big part of what makes this channel work. Okay, I'm on your books here. Was Jesus
So you said
crucified?
the proof Muhammad existed. You should see it. Proof Muhammad
Esau,
existed.
Yahweh. Why you shouldn't go to college? Christianity, Torah, Talmud. I just rabbi for forgery. I'm looking for it. Or for pagan over Christmas. Got a millionaire. Right? Just search for historical Jesus. I'm looking. Here's your book on Apostle Paul. It's called Apostle Paul the Edomite, Black Hebrewites and Christians Debunked.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, here you go.
There it is.
Proof
Yes.
Proof Muhammad existed. Academic response to Robert Spencer.
Yeah, bro. Look what I wrote this book. What year was that, brother? I can't see that. Publishing date. You should see that. Next to the go on.
October 2021.
Yeah, I wrote this book 2 years ago, brother.
Yeah.
I destroyed Robert Spencer's, man. His faulty hermeneutic.
Okay.
Check this book out. It's an
Okay.
ode to Saga America by Barry Feld. You got that book, right?
What is it?
Barry Feld's work, Saga America by Barry Feld.
Oh yeah. I have one of his books actually. Not a fan, but okay. Because I don't think Native Americans are descendants of Israelites. But okay,
Oh,
now
you
let's.
disagree with that?
Yeah, of course I disagree with that.
You should
Yeah.
ask the book you should read called "The Star in the West" by Elias Boudinot. You got that book?
I have that book too. He was a Christian
Okay.
minister, and people have been misusing his work ever since he published it. But that's his fault for publishing it. But yeah,
Well,
he's
you do know Spencer's work is draped upon Patricia Crone's work, Hagerism, right?
No, I don't know about that, but I do know about the Hebraic Indian thesis. I even wrote a blog on it once. But all right, let's at theshieldSquad.com. Just go to theshieldSquad.com and see. That's the name of the website. You'll find the blog there, for the Shield blog. Okay, so Paul was an Edomite. Your number one reason for saying Paul was an Edomite, what is it?
Give me Acts 24:24. We can put up on the screen.
Acts 24:24.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first thing you want to go to. Acts
Yeah, sir.
24:24. Okay, I got it up, and I'll try to bring it up here, and let me see if I can. Why isn't it sharing? Okay, let's see. Should be sharing now. You guys can't see my logos, can you? Hold on, just give me a second, everybody. Let me see what the deal is here. No, okay. Okay, there we go.
Before we do that, can I say one thing?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm a proponent of the 12 tribes chart as well. I mean, vocab does not believe that natives are Israelites, as you also eloquently said, correct?
Yeah, I do not believe that natives are Israelites, correct.
Okay, I want to say one. Can I say one thing before we go forward? Just like for 20 seconds.
Okay.
Can I? That's it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, to show you how spiritual the 12 tribes chart is, right? Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Certainly, the Mayans are from the tribe of Issachar, right? How do we know? The Olmecs were Canaanites, and the Mayans were from the tribe of Issachar. How do we know that? In the Levant, in ancient Levant, the Issacharites and the Canaanites were living amongst each other in the Bible. You familiar with that, right? In the book of Chronicles.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So the Canaanites and in Levant were living. Canaanites and Issacharites were living amongst each other in the Levant. To show you how spiritual the chart is, 12 tribes chart. Fast forward to the Americas, the Mayans and the Olmecs were living amongst each other. The Mayans are from the tribe of Issachar, they're Israelites. And the Olmecs are from the tribes of Canaanites, Africans who came over here. That shows you how spiritual the chart is. But go ahead, I'm done. Just want to say that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're just saying that they were neighbors in both places, and that's evidence of the chart.
Correct. They were natives. They were which is what you use? Not natives, excuse
Neighbors.
me.
Neighbors.
Neighbors. Yes, sorry. They were on ourselves. They were neighbors in the Levant, just like they were neighbors in the Americas. Shows you how
Okay.
spiritual it is. But go ahead.
Well, I'm waiting. The floor is yours. I'm getting this evidence that Paul was an Edomite. I have Acts 24:24 up.
Yeah, if you could
And
read verse 24, yeah.
you want me to read it to you?
Yeah, like a
Okay,
little
after some days, Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was Jewish, and he sent for Paul and heard him speak about faith in Christ Jesus.
Con. So it says, well, Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was Jewish. Now, this calls, you ready? You ready for the punchline, right?
I'm ready.
The Bible calls Drusilla Jewish. Would you agree?
The Bible does call Drusilla Jewish, correct.
Here we go. Y'all ready? Drum rolls, please. Drum rolls, please.
I don't have a drum roll,
Wh-
but I can give you a. Hold on. I can give you a. How about this sound? That's all I
There we go.
got.
Who was, now keep in mind, Drusilla's called Jewish. Who was Drusilla's father?
Who is Drusilla's father?
Yeah, here's a headshot before we even get started.
Okay, I don't know who Drusilla's father was off the top of my head. I mean, I can
You
look it
don't
up
know.
here. Yeah, I'm gonna look it
Herod,
up.
hold on, I got you. Herod Agrippa the Edomite. Give me another one of those, brother.
Hold on, let's look here. What it says. Actually, what it says here is Drusilla, daughter of Agrippa, Jewish wife of Antonius Felix. And I'm looking now at the Lexham Bible Dictionary. The Roman procurator in Judea during Paul's imprisonment. Felix and Drusilla heard Paul speak about Christ while he was held in Felix's custody. According to
Yeah,
Josephus, Drusilla was the youngest daughter of Agrippa the First. She had
yeah,
two
Agrippa. Yeah,
sisters,
that
Bernice
Agrippa
and
was.
Mariam, Antiquities 19. Drusilla was born about AD 36, was married at about 15 years old to Azizus, king of Emesa, Antiquities 20. Felix fell in love with Drusilla and sent Simon, a Jewish sorcerer from Cyprus, to convince her to leave her husband. Drusilla married Felix in AD 54. They had one son, Agrippa, who died in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79 during Titus's reign, Antiquities 20. So you said daughter of Herod, but it says daughter of Agrippa.
No, Agrippa is Herod. There were multiple Herods, just like there were multiple Jesuses. Like Barabbas, who was next to Christ. So, remember when Pontius Pilate, you know the story, right? Where he traded who Barabbas for Jesus of Nazareth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You familiar with that?
You're talking about when they released Barabbas? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, you know what Barabbas' first name was, right?
Well, I know Bar-Abbas means son of the father.
You know his first name, brother.
Oh, his first name? I don't believe it's mentioned in the scripture.
Yeah, his name was Jesus. It's in the NLT, but they took it out of the KJV because it was two Jesuses.
Well, hold on. Let
Somebody
me
took
see.
it out.
Let me
Yeah,
see. Somebody took it out?
yeah, it's in the NLT to this day. It says his name was Jesus Barabbas.
Okay. Well, let's see here. Let
Sure.
me poke. Let's see here if that's right. Okay. By
And
the
while he
way,
gets that, there was. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
no, go ahead. I'm going to. So
Yeah,
it
while he's doing
says.
that, Agrippa was Herod. Herod's son, great grandson. Agrippa is a Herod. He was Herodian. Agrippa was an Edomite.
Oh, well, that's definitely true. Okay. So I have Barabbas. He's listed here in John 18. It just calls him Barabbas. Barabbas in Luke 23. Barabbas in Mark 15. And Barabbas in Mark 15 as well again. And Barabbas in Mark 15:7. Barabbas in Matthew 27. So I don't see anywhere where he is described as Jesus Barabbas. But how would that even be relevant if that was the case? 'Cause Jesus just means Joshua. And so a lot of Hebrew men, boys, named by their mothers and fathers, a lot of them were named
I'm sorry, brother.
Yeshua.
Go to the NIV, Matthew 27:17. You can pull it up.
You want the NIV,
Yeah, sure.
Matthew. Okay, I got the NIV right here. And but you understand, so Jesus, Yeshua was a very common name at that time.
Of course.
Okay, Matthew 27, I got it up.
Verse 17, read that.
17. Oh, there you go. Okay. Which one do you want me to release to you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called Messiah? Okay. So that's not taken out of the KJV. That probably means there's earlier manuscripts that say that. So I'm not opposed to that at all. But that's not really that significant because a lot of people were named Yeshua at that time. If you read
Certainly.
Josephus, there's a lot of people named Josephus inside there.
Jesus.
Huh? Well, you
You
don't
mean
know.
Jesus.
I'm saying in Josephus, he mentions a lot of other
Right.
people named Jesus, which is the Hebrew
Right.
word Yeshua, because
Of course.
they named their parents after the parents named their kids after Joshua.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know who Josephus said his Mashiach was, right?
Oh, you're talking about the Roman?
Yeah. He said that
Yeah,
his God was Vespasian.
but what does that have to do with anything?
Because you made a statement. You said it says Agrippa. Agrippa was an Edomite brother.
But
So go back to Acts
what's that have to
24.
do
It
with
calls.
Barabbas though?
I was showing you that this was a common name. There was multiple Herods. Herod Agrippa was
Oh,
Herod's grandson.
okay. So your point is, just like Barabbas's full name, I guess, is Jesus Barabbas. You're saying there's also lots of people named Agrippa. That's what
Correct.
that was your
Yeah.
main
It's a multiple Agrippas.
point
Yes.
there. Okay. Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, we got Agrippa the first, we got Agrippa the second. I got the family tree up here. Here's Herod the Great at the top. I don't know if everyone can see this. I'll try to make it a little bigger here. I don't know how big it can really get. I'm trying to get it as big as it can. Oh, it's actually getting smaller. Let me try to see how big I can make this. Well, it's about as big as it's going. Okay. Well, yeah. Let me try. Hold on. Let me try one other thing here, everyone. Okay, so I got this family tree up here for Herod Agrippa II. Herod the Great's at top. That's him. Then here's his offspring, Aristobulus, Herodias. That's not one of his offspring. That's he's in the family tree, but I don't think he's technically one of his offspring because he's the wife of Philip. Oh, I'm sorry. What am I saying? He. It's been a long day, everyone, so please excuse me. Herodias is the wife of Philip the Tetrarch. Okay, and she was the one actually we were talking about earlier, I believe. And then there's Philip. That's his offspring. And then we've got Herod and Antipas, and then Archelaus. And then from here, we got Herod, also known as Agrippa the First. And that's who you're referring to, right?
Yeah, Agrippa. That was Drusilla's father. So the Bible, at any rate,
Which
the
you're
Bible
correct.
calls.
You're correct about that. Just so what he's saying right now, everybody, he is correct about that. Herod, also known as Agrippa the First, is the father of Drusilla, Agrippa II, and Bernice. That part is true. So even if we don't agree with what you're saying, we can still learn a little bit about the Bible along the way. And so what you're saying with that part is factually correct. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, brother. That was eloquent. And so, at any rate, so Drusilla, whose father was an Edomite, is called Jewish in the Bible. Yeah, so she's an Edomite, but she's being called Jewish. Whoa, what's going on? Why is the Edomite being called Jewish? You want to explain? If you can explain that?
Where is Drusilla called an Edomite in the Bible?
She's not. It's in history.
Oh, you're saying
You just yielded. She was Edomite, brother. Now you're reneging on that.
Oh, no. I'm just talking about Drusilla now. All I asked you was in the Bible, where is she called an Edomite? I was just saying where she's called an Edomite. But I'm not disagreeing with her lineage. I'm just saying where she was called that. You're just saying she is an Edomite. We know that because of her family tree. But here in the Bible, she's called Jewish. That's what you're saying, correct?
Correct. So
Okay.
when Paul says, and I'm a Hebrew to Hebrews, and I'm from the tribe of Benjamin, that's inconsequential because Drusilla, who's openly an Edomite, is called Jewish. So that means nothing. These people were converts. Give me
Well, hold on. Can I ask
Romans.
you? You said these people are converts. Who are these people?
Yeah, give me Romans 16:11 real quick.
Well, okay, but I'm saying you're saying these people are converts.
Yeah, I'm gonna dive into that now. Give me
Okay.
Revelations Romans 16:11. We're going to James 9:27.
All right, here we are, Revelation 16:11.
Romans.
Oh, Romans 16:11. Okay, Romans 16:11. All right, here we go. It's on the screen. I'll read it. Greet my kinsman Herodion. Greet those of the Lord who belong to the family of Narcissus.
That's it. So Paul said, "What? Salute Herodian, my kinsman." Herodian were Edomites. He calls right there in the Bible Herodian his kinsman. These were Edomite. He was an Edomite. That's why he's saluting. But let's keep going.
Well,
Give me
hold
go to
on.
James.
That's Herodian, but that's not the same person in the family tree. It's a different word in Greek.
Right? Can I say something to that?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's just like Jesus is cursed through Jeconiah, but there was two Jeconiahs. Now the Strongest gets it wrong. There was two. There was a cursed Jeconiah, and then there was another Jeconiah. The cursed Jeconiah was the son of Jehoiakim in Second Chronicles chapter 3. Familiar with that, right?
I think I follow.
Second Chronicles 3. There was two Jeconiahs. One was cursed. That was Jehoiakim's son, and then Jehoiakim had a brother named Jeconiah, who was known as Josiah. I believe his name was. Oh no, let me get that in Second Chronicles 3. Um,
Well, can we just take your word for it now? Because won't we be kind of
yeah,
going
yeah, so
off?
yeah. I don't want to divert the
I
conversation.
understand you're saying there's a. If all you're saying is there's multiple people in the Bible, sometimes who have the same name. I mean, even in Jesus' own disciples, two people were named Simon, right?
Simon, yeah, so
Simon
correct.
the Zealot and Simon Peter. Two people were
Yeah,
named James out
correct.
of the early church who were significant. So we
Of
don't
course.
disagree that's. I mean, that's like life today. I mean, that's still how things are, right?
Yeah,
So
certainly.
I understand that, but I'm saying where it says Herodion, who are you saying that is, and how do you know?
Yeah, certainly. Let's who text that. Give me second Corinthians 11:32.
2 Corinthians 11:32.
Yeah, let's give you some background.
Okay. 2 Corinthians 11:32 said, at Damascus, the governor under King Aretas was guarding the city of Damascus in order to seize me, but I was let down in a basket through a window in the wall and escaped his hands. Okay.
Yes, this is talking about Apostle Paul of Tarsus. He was about to be arrested by King Aretas. Do you know why?
Well, this is right when he was saved, I believe, and initially, and he was preaching in the synagogues Jesus
Why did King Aretas want to arrest Paul?
because he was preaching Jesus in the synagogues, causing trouble. That's my basic understanding. Is something else to it?
Incorrect. So here's what
Okay.
happened. King,
Okay.
can I respond?
Yeah, I go ahead. I go ahead.
That's
Incorrect.
incorrect. He didn't. He wanted to arrest Paul because I tell you anyway, right? He wanted to arrest Paul because who was King Aretas' daughter married to?
Can you just hold on? You're saying this has to do with who the king's daughter was married to?
Yeah, who was King Aretas' daughter married to?
I don't know, but I mean,
Okay, he didn't know.
but hold
Okay,
on,
I'll
but
tell you.
see, but Lewis, here's
Yeah,
the thing. I got the Bible up here, so you just told me I was incorrect, and hey, I'm always open to being corrected because some of this, you've looked at some of these names and stuff, and I appreciate that. But here in Acts 9, I'm looking at verse 23, and here's what it says, bro. When many days had passed, the Jews plotted to kill him, but their plot became known to Saul. They were watching the gates day and night in order to kill him, but his disciples took him by night and set him down through an opening in the wall, lowering him in a basket. Now, was he
right.
talking about something? That's because he's preaching Jesus. Because if you look right before, what's it say in verse 22? But Saul increased all the more in strength and confounded the Jews who lived in Damascus by proving that Jesus was the Christ. So it tells you
Okay.
what I said right there. And am I wrong here? Because that's what it says in Acts.
Yes, this is wrong. Can I respond now?
Yeah, but tell me why it's wrong. Because I'm looking at the text, bro.
Yes. So here's why it's wrong. Here's why Aretas wanted to arrest Paul of Tarsus. At any rate, he King Aretas' daughter. Do you know who she married? Yes
I
or
don't
no?
know. No, I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. King Aretas' daughter married Herod Agrippa. He had the
Yes.
Edomite.
All right,
So
hold
they
on.
were married.
I
Huh?
got the Lexham Bible Dictionary.
Before you read that,
Let's.
can I finish my point? Then
Yeah.
you can read
Okay.
it.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. So shukran. So Herodes' daughter marries Herod Agrippa, right? You with me?
Uh huh.
Herodes' daughter marries Herod Agrippa. They had a bad breakup. Yeah, real bad breakup. To the point where Herodes and Herod Agrippa went to war. Literally. So this breakup was so bad. You with me?
Yeah. Uh huh. Yeah.
Herod
Okay.
Agrippa and King Herodes' daughter's breakup was so bad they ended up going to war. So he wanted to arrest Paul because Paul was Herod Agrippa's grandson. Or they were related. They were directly related. So the reason why he wanted to persecute Paul is because Paul was Agrippa's son or grandson, or well, one or the other. They were related, close kin,
But
close
hold
of
on,
kin.
Lewis. How do you know that?
How do I know that? I got the sources in my book. I got the sources in front of me. So I'm gonna let you respond. It's your show. I don't mean to be crass.
No, I'm just
So
trying to, because I'm saying you want to convince people, right?
this is in Josephus' writings. You can find this in the Antiquities of the Jews by
No, no,
Josephus.
Josephus does not mention the Apostle Paul.
That's incorrect. He's known as Saulus. And
Oh, come on, man. So
hold on,
here's,
hold on. Okay, hold on.
so
hold on.
here,
That's
so
cool.
that's
That's cool.
that
Hold on, brother.
that's fine that's fine
Brother.
if you're
Hold on,
gonna
brother.
say that, but
Brother, hold on,
now,
brother. Can I
but
respond?
yes, of course. I'm just saying if you want to convince people, you have to give a reason why. That's all I'm saying. But go ahead.
Yeah. So let's show you that Saul and Paul were the same person. He had two names. Before I get that, so long story short, at any rate, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Aridius' daughter has a bad breakup with Herod Agrippa, the Edomite, king of Jerusalem. They ended up going to war. Literally. They went to all-out war over this. You follow me?
Yeah, yeah.
So then she wants to arrest Paul because Paul was Herodian. He was from the royal Herodian bloodline. They were related, close kin, like cousins or whatever, like his uncle. So that's why he was persecuting Paul. Okay, so let's prove Paul was Saul. Let's get that in Acts. Hold on.
Wait. He was persecuting him because they were related?
Herod Agrippa and Aridius' daughter. You just read here. We just read in 2 Corinthians. His daughter married Herod Agrippa. They had a bad breakup, and they ended up going to war over the breakup. Like they were like a spouse, like like husband. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, here, let me read the entry here because you said I could do that. Aretas IV, the Nabatean king. Now, the problem is, so if he's Nabatean, he's like basically Arabic there. King circa
Yes.
9 BC to AD 40, who established religious centers in Petra. That's in Edom, everybody, in case you don't know. That's where Petra is. The governor of Damascus under Aretas IV attempted to have Paul arrested, 2 Corinthians 11:32. Aretas' daughter married the ruler of Galilee and Perea, Herod Antipas, best known today from New Testament accounts of his role in the executions of John the Baptist and Jesus of Nazareth. When Antipas took another wife, Aretas' fourth daughter returned to her father, who then went to war against Antipas and defeated him. Herod Antipas appealed to Emperor Tiberius, who assigned the governor of Syria, Vitellius, to attack Aretas. This episode was a significant precursor to the beheading of John the Baptist and the death of Jesus. So I see all that, but here's what I'm saying. None of this proves that Paul was a royal bloodline in some way related to this guy. And in the Bible itself, remember I read from Acts? It says he was preaching Jesus in the synagogues. That's the first-hand account. You're saying the reason is something else that you've not established from the New Testament. But I'm listening. I just want to show that's not in the New Testament. But the reason that Paul was going to be arrested in Damascus is in the New Testament in Acts. And I read it, and you said it was wrong, but it's right there. So I don't know about this idea of you get to use the New Testament sometimes when it agrees with your theory and then throw it out when it doesn't agree, especially because Luke, who wrote Acts, was a traveling companion of Paul. But go ahead.
Right.
You wanted to show something else.
Yeah, you made this erroneous statement that Josephus never mentions Paul. Let's debunk that first. Give me Acts 13:9.
Okay. Just so everyone knows, in this point, Lewis is going to be very alone. Historians of Josephus do not believe, by and large, Josephus ever mentioned Paul. Just gotta. Most historians agree. Josephus mentions Jesus. There's some dispute about the length of the pericope, and I don't know anybody except for like rare people that believe Josephus did not mention John the Baptist and Jesus' brother James. And some other New Testament figures as well, of course, but those are key prominent ones. However, Paul, not so much. If he was mentioned, that'd be great, because then we could learn more about Paul from Josephus. But just because people have the same name doesn't mean they get to be the same people. Otherwise, I could say you're Huey Lewis, and you made the Back to the Future theme song, you know? But go ahead.
Yeah, I pulled, let me get the verse. Acts
Don't
13
take
and 9.
money. Don't take fame. Don't take a credit card to ride this train. Right? Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, give me Acts 13 and 9 real quick.
It's the power of love. Okay, But Saul, who was also called Paul, filled with the Holy
Read
Spirit,
that again.
looked.
Saul what?
Saul, who was also called Paul. Brother, we all know this, though. That ain't news.
Right. So Saul also, because we established his name was also Saul, which is an Edomite custom to have two names. We'll go to that. So you go to
Bro. What the heck? An Edomite custom to have two names?
yeah, that was an Edomite custom. The Jews never
Where
did that.
where did you get that? Where did you get that? Because let me tell you something. These Jews of this time, bro, had to live in multiple worlds, right? They was
Right.
living in this Hebraic world where there was, Aramaic being spoken and all of that, and they was having to live in this Greco-Roman world. And because of that, almost every Jew who had to interact with Gentiles, which is almost every Jew at this time, had different names depending on the context. Simon, Peter, Cephas, 3 in that case. So sometimes it was even more. Peter himself had multiple names according to the context. These aren't really
Wait,
different
hold on.
names.
Hasn't that been disputed by Bart Ehrman?
Bart Ehrman proved what?
That Kepha and Peter were not the same person.
Oh, I haven't read Bart Ehrman trying to prove that. I don't know if he says that. I've never heard that. Let's just say he does. That doesn't mean he's right. I mean, Jesus literally says, "You are Peter the rock." He literally says that. And Paul even refers to Peter as Cephas in 1 Corinthians 15. So you're really out on a limb here. Now, why do you say it was an Edomite custom to have two names? I mean, brother, I got a homeboy. Some people call him Ricky and some people call him Ricardo. Because he's Spanish speaking from Mexico. He's not an Edomite custom. I'm saying this now, but I'm talking about this is kind of what people have always done. Where did you get it that it's an Edomite custom to have two names?
Certainly. Go to Acts 22, 27 through 28.
Well, it's not going to tell you that. Okay. For this man is a Roman citizen. So the tribune came and said to him, "Tell me, you are a Roman citizen?" And he said, "Yes." The tribune answered, "I bought the citizenship for the large sum." Paul said, "But I am a citizen by birth." So
Stop there.
those.
Paul was a citizen by birth.
Yeah, that's
How does that
right.
prove he was an Edomite? Okay.
It doesn't
So
prove
this
he's
is
an
during the
Edomite.
time.
Proves he was
Huh?
born in Tarsus.
Correct. And here's the issue with this. This proves he was an Edomite headshot, right? So Caesar Augustus appoints. Can you hear me?
I'm listening, bro. Go ahead.
Caesar Augustus appointed Herod Antipater and his family. The only people who had citizenship at birth were the family of Herod Antipater. Yeah. So let's slow it down. Caesar Augustus appoints Herod Antipater, and and Paul was related to Herod Antipater. The only people who had citizenship at birth were the Herodian family of Antipater. So this is
Whoa,
why the centurion.
bro. That is not correct. There's multiple ways you could become a Roman citizen. It wasn't
No, hold on. Let me
only.
just finish my point.
Okay.
So now, who changed that? That was Emperor Hadrian. When Hadrian lived, Emperor Hadrian. You remember Hadrian?
Yeah. He's the
He's
guy
the one who
that.
said, "Okay, you can be a citizen at birth regardless of your nationality." But before Hadrian, the only people who were citizens at birth in Rome were the family of Antipater.
What's your evidence for that?
It's called the Latin laws. You can look it on Wikipedia. It'll show you that Hadrian, who's the one who made the law, that you could be a citizen at birth regardless of your nationality. But before that, the only people who had carte blanche at birth was the family of Antipater, which Paul was from the line of Herodian Antipater. Make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, go ahead. Are you?
No, I'm just. So a lot of what you're saying is something that I don't see this at all. I'm not sure where you're getting this. So, like, where are you getting this idea, all right? Where are you getting this idea that only the certain family could be Romans by birth before that?
Yeah, when Hadrian came on the scene, he's the one who said, "Okay, it's called the Latin laws." You can look it on Wikipedia. He said, "Okay, it doesn't really matter anymore. You could be a citizen at birth, it, regardless." But the only people who had that carte blanche was the family of Antipater at the time.
Well, so I don't really see the evidence for that, though. So, I mean, if that's the case, bro, this dude would know that Paul is royalty. If what you're saying is true, that means that the man examining Paul here, right, the tribune, you know what that means, bro? That means he would know Paul was royal, according to your theory. And yet, what's the Bible say? Those who were about to examine him withdrew from him immediately, and the tribune was also afraid. Now, here's the reason. Watch this, Lewis. For he realized that Paul was a Roman citizen and that he had bound him. It doesn't say anything about he knew he was royalty or of a royal bloodline or related to the Herodian dynasty or anything like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because all the way back in the days of Cicero, you know what Cicero, he's a Roman orator, he said this, quote, "To bind a Roman is a crime. To flog him is an abomination. To slay him is almost an act of murder." That's in Against Verus, Book 2, 566. So this is something you could not do. It didn't have anything to do with this theory of what you're talking about, because check this out. This doesn't say what you're saying. Now let me read here from a commentary and see what this says here. As the soldiers, I'll tell you the commentary's name in a second here. As the soldiers are stretching their prisoner out with thongs about his wrist to secure him for the scourging, he asks a question that transforms him from victim to master of the situation. Is it legal for you to flog a Roman citizen who hasn't even been found guilty? Though from the Augustan age, the Lex Julia contained an absolute prohibition on binding or beating a Roman citizen. Paul's qualified statement accords with the later practice. Source Sherwin-White. Compare Acts 16:37. The centurion is dismayed and immediately reports Paul's Roman citizenship to the tribune. The tribune verifies it by a simple question to Paul, which the apostle answers in the affirmative. To wrongly claim Roman citizenship was a serious, even capital offense. That's according to Suetonius and Claudius 25:3, Epictetus in his Discourses 3:24. Because most citizens did not travel far from their hometown, they did not normally carry with them proof of citizenship, but a traveler such as Paul may have carried with him a copy of his birth registration. Source Sherwin-White, 1963, pages 148, 149. Paul's bearing and his previous cultivated interaction with the commander in which he had revealed his Tarsian citizenship, 2139, may be enough to assure the commander that he is telling the truth. So here's the thing. This stuff about not beating a Roman citizen goes back to Augustus, Lex Julia. So that doesn't have nothing to do with the Herodian dynasty.
Okay, can I respond?
Yeah.
Certainly. Who preceded Pontius Pilate?
Oh, the governor before him? I don't know who the governor before him.
You don't know. Lentulus. Publius Lentulus. Now, of course, he's a made-up character. It's been proven he was a made-up character.
What do you mean, of course he's a made-up character?
Lentulus has been proven to be a made-up person in history. He was not a real person.
Who proved this?
Of course, I can prove that. Before we dive into that, I want to show your audience something. Being that it's Easter, can we type in Orpheus crucified real quick?
Hold on.
Because you made a statement, and I want to respond to that.
Hold on. I want to look up Lentulus here.
Okay, go ahead.
Roman senator. There's a bunch of Lentulus. Which are we talking? Publius Lentulus?
Yes.
Okay, that's not the guy who. That's not the one who came before. Yeah, that's not the one though.
Yeah, it was.
Hold on. You're mixing and matching, because there is a letter of Lentulus that is apocryphal. I'm looking this up right now, but that's not the one who came before Pilate. Let's see who.
So this is writings. He wrote a book about Jesus.
That's an apocryphal book, man.
Yeah, he wrote a book about how Jesus was fair skinned and he was white with long hair. He was beautiful. Those letters have been proven to be made of Spirit's writings. Anyway, go ahead.
I know, but I'm saying that epistle that you're talking about by Lentulus, that is fraudulent. But what does that have to do with the guy who came before Pilate?
Hold on, let me get it for you. That's the image you see of Jesus today is on Caesar Borgia.
Well, that's not true either. That's not true either.
Yeah,
we have images. Now. Jesus wasn't white. We all know that. But that Caesar Borgia image, that comes way later We have images that look like that figure with the hair and a beard and the fair and all this before Cesare Borgia even existed. And that's a fact of art history. Now, we're totally going off here, but I'm talking about, if you're saying Lentulus is made up, then who was the actual person who preceded Pilate? Because there really were governors in Judea. So who was the governor of Judea then before Pilate, bruh?
Yeah, I'm getting that now. If we could type in again would you agree that Jesus was black? Do you agree with that or disagree?
I don't know exactly what Jesus looked like. I know
Okay,
he could not have looked like a European, but to
you
say
agree.
he looked like someone who arose from Africa would also be false, because people during that day didn't look like that. They looked.
That's bogus. They found Mary Magdalene's and who was in there? Joseph Arimathea. They found his tomb, his
Are you
ossuary,
talking
and they
about? Are you talking about James Tabor? That no one holds to the Jesus family tomb stuff except for him and I think James Cameron, the guy who made
oh,
Titanic.
they did write a book. Yes, I'm not talking about that. It's a different book. I gotta pull it up. Sorry, let me pull it up. See if I can find it real quick. They found the ossuary and they did the bone testing. They came back Negroidian. Like, well, that's not, I don't mean to be crass.
No,
I
that
mean
ain't
like,
no. But what you're saying just ain't true. Now here's the
okay,
thing,
I'm gonna prove that. Go ahead.
Lewis. I just looked it up. The person who preceded Pilate was Valerius Gratus. You told me it was Lentulus, and you're right about there's an epistle supposed to be from Lentulus that's fraudulent. That's true, but that has nothing to do with the guy who preceded Pilate. The guy who preceded Pilate, and this is public record. Everyone type this in if you don't know what I'm talking about. Valerius space Gratus. He was the fourth Roman prefect of Judea under Tiberius from 15 to 26. He was the one who was before Pilate. Pilate replaced him. So why did you say that? In fact, if you guys have seen Ben-Hur, now this is Ben-Hur's fictional, but in it there's a guy named Gratus who's almost killed by the roof tile. You guys remember that? This is actually what prompts the whole events of that story in Ben-Hur, was the person playing that. Now it's fictional, but Gratus was a real guy, and in that he was the one who got almost killed that created this whole thing. So, bro, why did you tell me Lentulus preceded Pilate when it was Valerius Gratus? Why'd you do that?
Of course he did. I'm gonna prove that. Um,
Well, but I mean, but it's right. I mean, it's like the public record, man. You know, it's like
right.
public record. It's a public record that he. I mean, we have like coins with his joint on it here. So I'm gonna look up and see encyclopedia.com. I want to show this people. Let's show this people. Okay, you guys looking at this? Look at this. That says Zadok down there. Okay. Okay, look at this. This is encyclopedia.com, Lewis. Roman procurator of Judea, 15 to 26, appointed by Emperor Tiberius. Little is known of his administration, but his frequent replacement of the high priest is indicative of his attitude towards the Jews. After disposing Anon, he appointed in turn Ishmael. It just names a bunch of people what he did. That is his motive. That his motive was bribery is hinted in the Talmud, because money was paid for the purpose of attaining the position of the high priest, which changed every 12 months, and da-da-da. So you have him being discussed in the Talmud with some reasons about why he did what he did. But he is the one who was before him. I don't understand what you're getting at, bro. Here's a coin with him, bro. Why are you saying he didn't? Look at this. Roman Judea.
Okay, hold on.
Valerius
Do we not?
Gratus. I mean, this
We
is
don't have
literally.
Do we? I'm sorry.
There's even coins from his reign and stuff, and he's
Right, but
mentioning.
don't we have the Justinian coins with Jesus on them and he's black?
Okay, no, we don't. But what does that have to do with your point that you're saying the guy who preceded Pilate was some guy who didn't exist when the guy who preceded Pilate is Valerius Gratus? Why'd you do that for?
Okay, let's say that's true. Let's go for it.
Look it up. I mean, it's on the screen. First of all, we got coins from his era, right? But
Yeah, coins from this era. Okay. Okay, I'm listening. Go ahead.
I mean, you see, bro, you keep on quoting Josephus in Antiquities 18. You know what Josephus says? I'm going to quote it. Tiberius sent Valerius Gratus to be procurator of Judea and to succeed Annius Rufus. This man deprived Ananus of the high priesthood and appointed Ishmael the son of Phabi to be high priest. He also deprived him in a little time and ordained Eleazar the son of Ananus, who had been high priest before, to be high priest, which office when he had held for a year, Gratus deprived him of it and gave the high priesthood to Simon the son of Caminthus. And when he possessed identity no longer than a year, Joseph Caiaphas was made his successor. When Gratus had done those things, he went back to Rome after he had tarried in Judea 11 years when Pontius Pilate came as his successor. Now you keep on quoting Josephus tonight, but here right in Josephus 18:2, it tells you the guy is Valerius Gratus, not the guy you made up. I don't know what you're doing here, but that doesn't help your point.
All right, let me respond to that. Let me address that. Record.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
All right, brother. Give me Acts 18:2.
Is this going to prove your point?
Yes.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me get the right verse.
And by the way, I said I was going to say the commentary earlier. I didn't get to it.
Yeah,
Let me show everyone the commentary that I was talking about here real quick. It's this commentary right here, which it's Acts in the IVP New Testament Commentary Series by William J. Larkin Jr., edited by Grant R. Osborne. That was a commentary from Acts I was quoting on, published by IVP in 1995. But now I'm going to go to the passage you asked about, okay? Okay, I'm here. And what passage did you say, bro?
Okay, Acts chapter 18, 1-2. How about yourself?
Acts 18, 1-2. Okay, it's on the screen.
You can read that. I'm saying there, you can read that.
Yeah, I can read it. Let me just slide this over here and try to get rid of this part right here. Okay, you ready? Just give me a second here. Okay. After this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth, and he found a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus, recently come from Italy with his wife Drusilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews to leave Rome. And he went to see them. Okay.
Yeah, stop there. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28.
Hold on, bro.
The curses. Because in Deuteronomy 28, it gives you the curses that happened to the children of Israel. And the Christians, can you hear me? Because I got background on.
Yeah, but I'm confused what this has to do with proving that Pontius Pilate was preceded by a guy who didn't exist.
Yeah, I'm going to deal with that now. So, let me do Deuteronomy 28 real quick. We're going to look at the curse. This is relevant. I'm going to tie it together. Let's look at the curses that happened upon the children of Israel for breaking the Torah. In Deuteronomy 28.
Okay.
But you may be in a different version, so I don't know what version you're in.
I got the ESV. I can switch over to what you want, but where's
KJV?
This?
Okay, go down to verse...
Hold on. Muslim who prefers the KJV. Okay. Yeah. There it is. Okay, what do you want? What verse?
The verse says, a nation from Pharaoh's tongue that wouldn't understand. Hold on.
What verse do you want me to pull up, bro?
Hold on. Sorry, 1 second, bro. Okay, go to verse 49.
So Deuteronomy 28:49 is going to somehow...
Hold on, this is the curses that will go upon the children of Israel.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Okay?
Yeah, Hashem said he would bring a nation against thee from far, whose tongue they wouldn't understand. Now, the Christian apologists said this is the Romans in after 70 AD. That makes no sense. We just read it in Acts that there were Jews living in Rome before 70 AD, and we were certainly speaking Latin, because Aquila was in Rome. They were speaking Latin. Would you agree?
I don't know if it's true that the Christian apologists only say this is Rome, though.
Okay, before you go in, that to be Christ. Yes, sure. So the Romans, they teach that the Romans fulfilled this prophecy after 70 AD, but the Jews were already in Rome and speaking Latin before 70 AD. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but this wasn't written then, so...
This was written. How's the tongue we would understand a nation from far, and we were already in Rome speaking Latin before 70 AD, brother?
All that would need to be for this is that it's not their own language. That's really all it's saying. It's just saying it's not their own language.
Okay, go down to verse 68. So between 60
but hold on,
what's going to happen to the children of Israel?
We don't just say that it's Rome. I don't know where you got that from.
No, read verse 28:68. Not to be crass. Sorry, I mean Luke. If you read verse 68,
What is the verse?
Deuteronomy 28:68.
Because, we could say that this is also the Assyrians and the Babylonians.
Okay, give me Deuteronomy 28:68. Let's see what the curse was
You
for
mean about,
breaking Torah.
you want the ships?
Yeah, verse 68.
Okay,
This is the
it's on the screen.
main curse. You go to verse
Oh,
68.
well, the Bible doesn't say it's the main curse. That's what you're saying. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Okay, what does that have
Right.
to do?
So after 70 AD, this is a book called Babylon Timothy Rutherford Windsor. He's a
Oh,
PhD.
no.
I'm almost done.
Hey,
Yeah.
well, hey,
Well, hold on,
Windsor,
brother. Can I finish my point?
Windsor is not a PhD.
Okay, he's an actor. We'll deal with that. Can I finish my point?
He's
And
not an
I'll give the
academic,
floor?
bro. Have you ever read that book?
I have it here. Hold on. Can I finish my point for the audience?
Yeah, I've criticized
And
that
then
book.
I yield the floor. Then I'm going to land my plane.
I just want to say, you don't want to say he's a PhD when he's not. He's somebody who misused sources, and a lot of times doesn't even cite his sources. It's pseudo
Okay, can I
through
make
and
my
through.
point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Certainly. So after 70 AD, 1 million Jews fled to West Africa. And when the slave trade started, the Moors and the Arabs knew that we were Jewish in exile, cursed, and sold us to white people. Sorry to be crass. That's what happened historically. These people were not Hamites or
Arabs aren't
native.
white. Arabs aren't
They
white.
were
They're
not
part of
native. They
they're
were
part of
not
the slave
native.
trade.
Hold on, brother. I'm almost done, brother. These people were not native Africans. These were Jewish people exiled from Israel. I yield.
Yeah, Arabs aren't, I don't think, white, and they're part of that. And also, of course, there's people of Hamitic origin who also had some of these slaves. So I'm not saying white people weren't involved. Obviously, they were. I mean, it gets really ugly and bad, but it's different than what you're saying. And, of course, white has nothing to do with this text, first of all. Second of all, even though this has nothing to do, this doesn't prove your point about Pilate's predecessor. It does nothing. That's what you said we were going to do. Check this out. Windsor is mistaken in 1 million people fleeing into Africa. Let me tell you why. And I know this is from the top of my head because I looked at this because you guys all repeat this. And
Right.
you got to
I'm
stop
gonna debunk what
repeating.
you're gonna say
You
next.
got to
Go ahead,
stop
bro. Finish.
repeating it. Number one, Tacitus tells us there was maybe 600,000 Jews in Jerusalem at the time of the siege. And he's a Roman historian. Josephus puts it closer to 1 million living there. Now, here's my point. If there's that many people living there, they're not all fleeing into one place, number one. So they're not all going into Africa. This is the diaspora, their dispersion. So first of all, Josephus' number is higher than Tacitus. So when you have two numbers like that, you say, okay, it's probably somewhere between that. Josephus may have been over, Tacitus may have been under. But here's the thing. If there's 1 million people or 600,000 or so living in Jerusalem in that area, that doesn't mean they all fled, first of all. You got people dying. You got people doing this, doing that, whatever. And they're not all going to Africa because they're going everywhere. So you guys try to basically pad the resume. And you say, 1 million went into Africa because that's what Windsor said. But that's my point about Windsor not being trustworthy. He never cites the source for that 1 million going into Africa number, and you guys repeat it like Windsor was there himself. But when you look when you look at Tacitus and Josephus, they tell you not to trust Windsor basically because they show the full story, and that's where we get the real number from, not from Windsor.
Okay.
Unless Windsor has a secret source he wants to unveil, we've got to look at Tacitus and Josephus, and it never says 1 million fled into Africa. So all I'm
right,
saying
can I
is,
respond?
I appreciate your zealousness, but you got to stop citing these bad sources and trusting them. Otherwise, you're going to be led astray. Now,
All right.
how do you know that the guy who preceded Pilate didn't even exist?
All right. Let me adjust the first thing you said, if I could. I don't want to lose focus. I'm gonna do one thing at a time, if I could.
Okay.
All right. I forgot the first thing I was gonna say, so I'll repeat the second thing. There's an excellent book by a scholar named Lenore E. Burson. I'm sure you have that book, right? By a Negro and a Jew by Lenore E. Burson.
I'm not sure what you're saying. Can you spell that out for me, bro?
The Negro and the Jew by Lenore E. Burson. She was a white woman. She was not black.
Well, that doesn't matter to me. I don't judge people's work by the color of their skin.
Okay, so here's what
that's a
happened.
Hebrew Israelite thing.
No, it's not. But I'll address that.
Besides,
Lenore E.
hold on. Don't
Burson-
you should like books by white people because Muhammad was white.
I deal with that. That's bogus. That's a lie. It's a lie from the pit of Gehenna. But yeah, so if I can respond to what you said real quick.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
The Northern Bursons were the Negro and the Jew by Northern Bursons. She said the Negro claim to be Jewish is legitimate. The transatlantic slave trade victims were Jews exiled from Spain. So, well, at any rate, King Ferdinand and Isabella expelled the Jews from Spain. They went to West Africa. And when the slave trade started, they were sold to the Americas. And this is according to North E. Burson's work, who was a white woman from the 1970s, and said the Negroes are Jewish. No way around that. I yield.
No way around what? First of all, I haven't read what you're talking about. I'd have to see it. I can't just take someone's word on it. But
Well,
even if she did say that, that doesn't prove anything, because the fact is that the evidence does not indicate that everybody who was Jewish living in Spain was actually black. That's not in there. And that
Okay,
they
let me
all went
address
into
that.
Africa.
A good friend of mine,
They
who you
went,
know,
bro. They went lots of places. We know this.
okay, no, he's
A
a good
lot
friend
went into
you know
a lot.
personally. He's a good friend of mine that you know personally because I heard you shout him out. Israel only camp killer. You know him, right?
I don't know him, but I know his YouTube channel. Yeah.
So his mother's side, he's Dominican. He's probably listening. He told me this on the phone. He said, "Lewis,
He's in the
Rabbi
chat.
Lewis."
He's in the chat, bro.
I figured he's in the chat because I know him personally. Now, this is what he told me. Correct me if I'm wrong. He said, "Lewis, my father's side was Haitians from Spain. You with me? His ancestors weren't from the slave trade. These were Haitians living from Spain. You with me?"
Yeah.
And he said that on his father's side, his genetic marker is E1B1A, which is identical to the Negro of the slave trade. And his ancestors were not Negroes from the slave trade; they were Negroes from Spain, and they got the same haplogroup as the Negroes through the slave trade. So that's bogus what you said. But again, this is the Norrie Burston's work. We can pull it up real quick.
Hold on. What's bogus that I said?
You made a statement. I said Lenore E. Burston said most of the slave trade victims were Jews from Spain. You said they were not all black, right? Correct?
Yeah, we know that because a lot of them did things like fake converted to Christianity, and they just blended right in with the Spaniards.
Right. So I was quoting my good friend of mine, Jesse, whose fathers were exiled from Spain, and they got the same genetic markers as the Negro of the slave trade.
What? Hold on, bro. Lewis, you're not under the impression that everybody who was caught up in the slave trade has the same haplogroup, are you?
You put the cart before the horse.
No, you just said they have the same haplogroup, as if there's one haplogroup of people caught up in the TAST. My man, you hopefully know maybe 60 to 70% by all the estimates I've seen have E1B1A, but that's not everybody. That means 30 to 40% don't have E1B1A. So I don't know why you would say they have the same haplogroup as people caught up in the transatlantic slave trade. There is no the haplogroup of people caught up in the transatlantic slave trade. You know what I'm saying? Because you got different people for different places, from Mali to Ghana to Nigeria, and in and around and about and there and there. So it's just a lot of false assumptions. But I just feel like we're really losing focus, Rabbi Lewis. How does any of this prove Paul was an Edomite, or the guy who preceded Pilate as governor doesn't exist, or that it's only an Edomite custom to have two names, or that Josephus mentions Paul? You've never shown any of those things. You never showed that Paul was of a royal dynasty. You never showed that only this royal family could become Roman citizens prior to Hadrian. You haven't showed any of that stuff. And it's disappointing because you're going all these other places. It's kind of interesting. But Lewis, you got to help us. If you want us to believe anything of what you're saying, you got to show these things that you're telling us. And you can't use Windsor.
Let's digress back to I don't know how much time we have. So let's go back on top. Give me Acts 23, verse 23. And as I was eloquently saying, I was tying it together. The Christian apologists say that verse in Deuteronomy 28 is about the Romans.
No, we don't.
Coming in and taking Jews back into actual Egypt on ships in literal Egypt. But
no, other people did that too, man. Other people did that too. And also, there's even Jews who went back into Egypt during the days of Jeremiah. You've read the verse in Jeremiah where you've got Jews going back into Egypt. That fulfills that right there.
Okay, can I respond to that before we go forward?
Yeah.
Who, the god, if you want the god Horus and Anubis?
Yeah, what do they have to do with this?
I'm giving it to you, brother. They
Oh
feared the
no.
Horus, the god Horus, and the
I'm just
god
getting so
Anubis.
scared because you're going all over and like now we're
Okay,
going
let
to
me just
another
say this, and
place.
then we'll go back on topic. I don't know how long your show goes, so let me just for the audience.
What does Anubis
I'm
have
gonna
to?
explain. Can I explain?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, brother. It's an honor. So Horus is a falcon bird. The falcon is called the Apollondo falcon, which is a bird that's indigenous to the Americas. Anubis, the Egyptian god of Egypt, is the Sololo dog, which is indigenous to the Americas. So why does the Bible say back into Egypt again with ships? Why does it just say back into slavery? Because
Lewis,
Egypt is America. Egypt
are
and
you,
America are historically the same place. This is why the Nile Valley River fits like a puzzle piece with the Mississippi River. It was the same land. So Hashem calls Egypt, America, Egypt again on ships because America was Egypt. Ancient Egypt was America. It was the same place at the time. This is why he calls it Egypt again with ships. I hear.
Anubis is an Egyptian deity with the head of a jackal.
There's the Lodal dog. There's a Lodal dog is the dog he's fashioned out there. That is a dog that's indigenous to the Americas. Horus is the Apollondo falcon, which is a falcon that's indigenous to the Americas as well. This is an American dog, an American bird.
But
What are they doing in Egypt, in Africa?
how
Because
do you,
America was ancient Egypt.
how do you how do you know what kind? Most people that talk about this believe it's a lanner falcon or how do you say it? Peregrine. Most people believe that's what it is, and no likelihood seems to be that. Where are you getting this from, man? But again, this doesn't have nothing to do with Paul being an Edomite. Can I show you why we know Paul was not an Edomite?
Certainly. You got the floor.
Now, you said that this didn't matter. You said that this wasn't irrelevant. I remember you said that, right? But I want you to please explain to us why it's irrelevant and why it doesn't matter. And I like you. I've never disliked you. So nothing I say is personal. I love talking to you. You're very interesting. You've always been a very kind person, So I just hope it doesn't come across any other way. I'm sorry sometimes if it did. I apologize for that. But it doesn't mean I believe that we're right about Paul being an Edomite. So here we are in Philippians 3. Paul's going to give his biography a little bit, right? And look what he says here. If anyone else thinks he has reason for confidence in the flesh, I have more. Now here's what's important to remember, Lewis. His whole argument here, Paul's whole argument, is he's saying, hey, these Judaizers, they're trying to say, look at us, da-da-da-da, putting confidence in the flesh. And Paul's going to say, look, I don't put confidence in the flesh, but if you want to put confidence in the flesh, then I could put confidence in the flesh, and I'm going to tell you why I could. And so now he's going to give the credentials that, according to their view, would be very appealing or whatever. But watch what he says here. If anyone else thinks he has a reason for confidence in the flesh. And the reason why I mention that, Lewis, is because if he's an Edomite or a proselyte convert, him saying he has confidence in the flesh makes no sense of his argument. I have more. Circumcised on the 8th day. That's something that someone who had faithful Israelite parents would do. Not some Gentile, of the people of Israel. He literally says he's of Israel there. Now, you're basically going to have to call him a liar if you're going to say that he's not. Of the tribe of Benjamin. So he's telling you what he's from. This is when you still had some people who knew where they're from. The case is almost not like that anymore. But here he still knows. He's one of those people who knows. He knows Benjamin. And it makes sense. He was named Saul. A famous Benjamite, of course, was King Saul. Now watch this. A Hebrew of Hebrews, not an Edomite of Edomites, or a convert among converts, or a proselyte. Or none of that. As to the law of Pharisee. I don't think they would let Edomites and proselytes be Pharisees, bro. As to zeal, a persecutor of the church. As to righteousness, under the law, blameless. But whatever gain I had, I counted as loss for the sake of Christ. Now that's a beautiful gospel message. And that's something I wish you would embrace, Lewis, where you see that the gospel is what makes all other considerations about who we were before mean nothing. Whether you were a gangbanger, a drug dealer, a doctor, a lawyer, a homeless person, or anything in between from whatever country, whatever gender, there's only two, by the way, but whatever it was, bro, it doesn't matter when you're in Christ. But he gave his biography. Now, why are you going to say he's lying and you're saying that he is an Edomite? Huh?
Certainly.
Okay. Go ahead. Tell me why he's an Edomite despite Philippians 3. Lewis?
Okay, certainly. Two things. Give me Acts 23:23. Before I just give it to you. His father's name was Paul's father was Phasael III. His father was Phasael III, and his father was the son of Herod the Great. He tried to kill baby Jesus in the Matthew narrative. So Paul's father was again Phasael III, who was the son of Herod the Great, and his Paulus was his mother,
Where'd you
his
get that
grandmother.
information from, though?
The sources is in my book. So,
Well, you got to tell us what it is. I mean, maybe people will want to buy the book. I can put the link in the description box. But how can you tell us you know his parents' names, and yet it contradicts what he says about himself? He says he was a Benjamite. Are you saying he was lying there?
yeah, of course, go to Revelations 2:9.
Of course. So Paul was a liar to you, right?
Yeah, go to Revelations 2:9.
Okay, I went to Acts 23. It ain't got nothing to do.
Verse 23, Acts 23:23. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Then he called two of the centurions and said, "Get ready, 200 soldiers with 70 horsemen and 200 spearmen to go as far as Caesarea at the third hour of the night. Also provide mounts for Paul to ride and bring him safely to Felix the governor."
So he was going to be arrested by Felix, and he was accompanied by how many? 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen to go to Sisera. If he was just a Benjamin, lowly Levantine Benjaminite, why is he getting all this royal treatment? Why? Because he was Herodian. That's why he had so many guards with him, because he was from the royal line of Herod Antipater.
Okay, now
Anyway,
let's take a look at your claim. In Acts 23, there was a plot to kill Paul. And so this is a serious plot. And it says, now the son of Paul's sister. So his nephew heard of their ambush. Now, according to you, who would Paul's sisters be, by the way?
Paul's sister. Do you have that? Is that there in the Bible? I don't remember seeing that.
Well, that's funny because you claim you know all these people who they are in Paul's family tree, but you don't even know his sister, and yet his sister is mentioned in Acts 23:16. So if you're going to make a family tree...
Read that, verse 16.
Now the son of Paul's sister. Who's Paul's sister and who's her son? Because it's got to fit in your family tree that you're making up here, bruh.
Give me the verse where it mentions his sister, please.
Acts 23:16.
Her name. Her name. Brother.
It says now the son of Paul's sister. It doesn't say the name. You're providing names, though, left and right. So if you're going to make a family tree for Paul, you've got to include a name for these guys.
Right.
Who was Paul's sister?
Two things to that. Adam, from Genesis, had other children that were not mentioned. There were people before Adam that were not mentioned in the Bible. It's irrelevant to the story. Jeremiah's children are not mentioned in the Bible because it was irrelevant to the story. In fact, a lot of things that Jesus did was not mentioned in the Bible. Let's prove that. Give me John 21:25.
No, I know all that. You're missing what I'm saying, Lewis. Your theory that you're making up with Paul being an Edomite, which I wholeheartedly reject because the Bible tells you he was a Benjamite. Your theory is inserting Paul into the Herodian family tree. Now, you won't find that tree in any textbooks or history books or scholars who agree with you. There's a couple conspiracy theorists online who do agree with you. But when you look at this mentions Paul's sister and Paul's sister's son. What I'm saying is if he is royalty in the famous family of all this stuff you're saying, that means whoever she is and whoever he is, the sister of Paul and the nephew of Paul, they would also have to be on this family tree. So you would have to include them and name who they are too. You see what I'm saying? But here's the thing, bro. Here's the thing. The sister is not mentioned as royalty. She's not ordering people around. They're just alerting them to this situation. It's a conspiracy. So the whole reason you have these guards with him is because they want to keep him safe because, remember, he is a Roman citizen. And the Romans, despite whatever flaws they had, were all about Pax Romana. Keeping the peace, right? And so they did what they had to do. So look at this. He called 2 centurions. Now, who called the 2 centurions? Felix, not Paul. Paul's not calling centurions over. Remember, Paul had gotten beat before. And then he says, hey, get 200 soldiers. So each centurion has a 100, because everybody should know centurion usually would mean captain of 100. That's where you get centurion, you see the related words there. So 200 soldiers, that means each one got their guys with them. 70 horsemen, 200 spearmen. So he's being very specific. Go to Caesarea at third hour of night. So they're leaving when it's dark and all that to avoid problems, and they're going to keep them safe. Provide mounts for Paul to ride, so he's going to be able to ride, so he's safer on horseback than he is walking. And here's the key: bring him safely to Felix the governor. They wanted to make sure he had a fair trial. And then it says they wrote a letter. Now look at this. Claudius Lysias, to his excellency the governor Felix, greetings. This man was seized by the Jews, about to be killed by them, when I came upon them with the soldiers and rescued him, having learned that he was a Roman citizen, not that he was an Edomite, or not that he was of the royal family. And desiring to know the charges for which they were accusing him, I brought him down to their council. I found that he was being accused about questions of their law, but charged with nothing deserving death or imprisonment. And when it was disclosed to me that there would be a plot against the man, I sent him to you at once. So the reason is right here in the Bible. You can't make up your own reasons when the Bible's telling you. Ordering his accusers also to state before you what they have against them. So the soldiers, according to their instructions, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris, and the next day they returned to the barracks, letting the horsemen go on with them. So do you see the reasons right there? Why are you making up reasons? And you can't even tell me who his sister and nephew is, although they're in here. Now, what's your proof that Paul was mentioned in Josephus? Just because there's someone named Saulus, that doesn't prove it's Paul. And where is this person mentioned? Because I want to look them up, because I'm curious when this person you're saying is Paul, when he lived. Because if he lived at a wrong time, and I bet you he did, because I doubt his birthday and death day is exactly the same as Paul's, which we know roughly, at least the latter.
Let me ask you a question.
So you got a lot of problems with this theory, my friend.
Two things. It's Antiquity of the Jews 29 and 4.
Hold on.
I'm going to read it. Hold on, before I read it. How did Paul die?
Beheaded by Nero.
You know that's been contested by, what's that book called? Hello?
I'm listening. I don't.
The book is called, let me get the name of that book real quick. It's in my book. That's been contested. What's the name of that scholar? 1 second.
So, okay, while you do that, and by the way, saying something's been contested doesn't mean it's been disproved. I just want to point that out. So I got Antiquities of the Jews up before me. Where's this Saulus guy mentioned? Lewis, where is Saulus mentioned? Where'd you say?
Yeah, Antiquities of the Jews 29 and 4.
Okay. Antiquities of the Jews ends at book 20.
9 and 4, yeah.
No.
Right there. It calls him Saulus.
Okay, are you talking about book 20? Because book 20, chapter 9?
Book 20, chapter 9 and 4, yeah.
Okay, going to book 20. Now I'm looking right here. I have Josephus up, and I'm going to read it, okay? About this time, it was that Agrippa built Caesarea Philippi larger than it was before, and in honor of Nero, named it Neronios. And when he had built a theater at Berytus with vast expenses, he bestowed upon them shows to be exhibited every year, and spent therein many 10,000. He also gave the people a largest of corn. Am I in the right place? Huh?
Hold on. Altar Jew, Legend St. Peter about Altar Jews. That's the name of the scholar. He said that Nero beheading Paul is made up history. Continue. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to go down here because I see the place you're mentioning, okay? I'm going to highlight it for everyone to see. And it's going to show that there's some major problems with your theory, okay? Let's get that source in a second here, but I don't want to get lost in it.
It's right there.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Costabras also and Saulus did themselves get together a multitude of wicked wretches, and this because they were of the royal family. And so they obtained favor among them because of their kindred to Agrippa, but they still used violence with the people and were very ready to plunder those that were weaker than themselves. And from that time it principally came to pass. So you're telling me that Paul worked with Costobarus to get a bunch of wicked people together to plunder the city?
Yeah, remember Paul. Remember before he was Paul, he was Saul. What was he before?
He was a Pharisee persecuting people he viewed as sectarian heretics. He wasn't a guy leading an anarchist gang.
Yeah, okay. So who's this Saulus here who was related to Agrippa? The scholars say this Saulus is the historical apostle Paul.
No, they don't. No scholar says that.
No scholar says that. Okay, so you said he was beheaded by Nero. That's been debunked by a scholar named Arthur Jules, or a book called The Legend of St. Peter, which is a must-read, having in my library. We can look at that now.
One thing at a time. Let's find out about who this Saulus guy is. All right, let's find out who this Saulus guy is, okay? And let's find out who Costabarus is, okay? We're gonna look at this and see what you're saying here. Okay. All right. Saulus, Josephus, okay, report. Okay. Let's read about him. All right? And this is going to be very interesting here. All right. So there we got your guy up that you're claiming is Paul, okay? Son of Antipater. All right. He was mentioned by the contemporary Jewish historian Josephus. Saulus reported the Roman reverses in Jerusalem to the Emperor Nero. So this guy you're talking about in real life, bro? In real life, he reports to Nero, but yet Nero's the one who killed him. Now I know where you
I just told you that's been debunked.
Okay, this is from the sources you're using, though. It hasn't been debunked.
I told you that same. Arthur Jules said that Nero beheading Paul was made up history.
I'm talking about the. Okay.
That's not my source, brother. That's your source. What are you talking about?
This doesn't. No. Paul being beheaded by Nero is in multiple sources. Right now we're reading about Saulus, but the idea that they work together is ridiculous. Especially, it's like, yo, he was reporting to Nero, and yet in Acts they don't know who this guy is. You know,
what are you talking about?
All the church of Galatia. Now here's my guess is you must be getting this, at least you probably might not even know it, from Robert Eisenman. And they mentioned that in here. Let's take a look at this. Because your theory, I just want everyone to know the theory he's talking about, it's not just him inventing it. By the way, shout out to Jay Fry, and also someone else gave a super chat. Who was that? I missed them. Israelite only camp killer. Yeah. He says, give Rabbi Lewis an A for effort. He means well. So that's your buddy. Okay, so here's what it says. Biblical scholar Robert Eisenman has suggested the Saulus might have been the same person as St. Paul the Apostle. In his reconstruction, Paul's unnamed...
That's beautiful, brother.
Yeah, these theories come from somewhere. I don't know if you've read Eisenman, but it doesn't...
Of course I read Eisenman's work.
Okay, so just because they're mentioning one guy saying this doesn't prove it. And if you've read it, then you would have known about this nephew because he gives him an identity. Paul's unnamed nephew, who warns him of a plot to kill him in barracks, was Julius Archelaus, son of Paul's supposed sister, Cypros, and her husband, temple treasurer, Alexis Halkias. And he wrote that in his book listed right here. A further source to sustain this pro-social relationship, as Paul's words, Romans 16:11, exactly what you use. So that's exactly what you use there. Okay, so I guess Eisenman is your main source, and you think that that's right. But let's read about this Saulus guy and find out. All right. We already read some of this, didn't we? Okay, let's read about him in Josephus' Wars. This is Saulus in Josephus's The Jewish War by Josephus. After this calamity had befallen Cestius, many of the most eminent of the Jews swam away from the city as from a ship when it was going to sink. And then it mentions about a bunch of people, and it says Saul, and it says who were brethren, together with Philip the son of Jacomus, who was the commander of King Agrippa's forces, ran away from the city and went to Cestius. So you would have to be saying Paul did all this stuff. And then how Antipas, who had been besieged with them in the king's palace, but would not fly away with them, was afterwards slain by the seditious, we shall relate hereafter. However, Cestius sent Saul and his friends at their own desire to Achaia, to Nero, to inform of the great distress they were in, and to lay blame of their kindling the war upon Florus, as hoping to alleviate his own danger by provoking his indignation against Florus. So this person who you're talking about, there's no indication this is Paul. And here's what's crazy. Paul talks about what he did before he came to Christ, a persecutor of the church, somebody dispatched from Jerusalem. Not what you're talking about. This is a totally different biography for this guy. And it's not the same name. I just want to point out, it's not the same name or the same family tree or anything here. And these encounters with Romans where Paul was like, saying he's a Roman citizen, and they're like, oh, they would have known who this guy was if he was this important guy like that. Not been shocked in all this. So this has got a multitude of problems here with this theory. And it seems like the Christians would have known. You know what I mean? Like, when Paul was saying who he was, they would have been like, nah, bro, that's not you. You're actually this guy. And, told him he was a liar for the stuff that he was saying. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
But do you understand, just because people have a similar sounding name,
You have a little bit of, you're breaking up a little bit, brother.
just because people have a similar sounding name doesn't mean they're the same people?
Of course, I would agree with that. Not necessarily. Like, for example, they found an ossuary with Jesus' name on it, Mary Magdalene, Mary, and
No.
Joseph.
It does not say Mary Magdalene in that ossuary. It does not. The ossuary does not say Mary Magdalene on the ossuary.
And of course it does. It's in Jesus' Family Tree by, who wrote that book? Let me get the name of it. Who wrote that book?
It does not say Mary Magdalene on the ossuary.
Yes, it does. Hold on. It's called
So-
Jesus' Family Tree by,
I know what you're trying to talk about. You're trying to talk about what's sometimes called the Jesus family tomb or the Talpiot
yeah, it
tomb.
was written by,
That's what you're trying to talk about. But that's incorrect. It does not say Mary Magdalene. Here's the names it does say. And let me tell you the names it does say. And these, you can find this, everybody, on ossuary number 80, what he's talking about. This is excavated back in 1980.
But you
It's
got
ossuary.
you got bad background noise.
That I don't. Everyone, do I have background noise? I don't think I do. I hear
like a weird echo or something.
I don't think so. Maybe that's on your end. But look at this. Here's the names. Here's the names. Yeshua bar Yosef, Maria or Miriam, Yosei, Yehuda bar Yeshua, Mariamini e Mara, which means Mary known as the Master. That does not mean it was Mary Magdalene. That's the one that they try to say is Mary Magdalene. But when you look it up, it does not say Mary Magdalene. And in fact, even in this entry, you have a scholar talking about this. This is Professor of History of Religion at Harvard, Francois Bouvin, based upon his study of the work. Quote, I do not believe that Miriam is the real name of Mary Magdalene. Miriam is, besides Maria or Miriam, a possible Greek equivalent attested by Josephus, Origin, Acts of Philip for the Semitic Mary. And then you have Matthew. So you don't, it's not true that it says Mary Magdalene. Now again, brother, this doesn't prove that Paul was an Edomite or part of the Herodian dynasty. Why are we even going here?
Certainly. Can you guys, your audience, do I have an echo? Because that's like a bad echo. I don't know if that's on my end again.
Here, let me do one thing here. There, I turned off my fan.
I might be me. Let me drop off and come back in.
Okay. And then we got to kind of wrap this up a little bit here. Okay. So everybody, very interesting program. And I don't mind talking about this because whenever we do stuff like this, I do learn things, Don't you learn something? I feel like we all kind of learn something. I feel like that might be my PC, my fan on might be the fan of my computer. That's the only thing I could think of. Kevin G says the PC fan is spinning faster to cool off the extra program on the speaker. Yeah, no one else is hearing an echo there, brother. I don't know what's going on here. But okay, we got you, and you're in the green room. And go ahead. I'm gonna put a picture over here so we can not have your camera on because I know you don't want that. Okay, so how does anything you've presented prove Paul was an Edomite? That's what I'm still trying to get at. Hello? Lewis?
Yeah, I'm here, brother. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah, go ahead.
It magically went away. Somebody was calling me or whatever when I was on, so it must have been a glitch. Okay, the book is called Jesus' Family Tomb, The Evidence Behind Discovery No One Wanted You to Find by Simche Tversky and Charles Pellegrino. And so how do you reconcile that, brother? That they found a guy named Yeshua who had a son named Yehuda, and Mary's in the tomb, the ossuary, and then his father's in there. Are these just a coincidence? These just common names? Is that your claim?
Oh, we know they're common names. So there have been study of inscriptions from Jerusalem during that time. And Mary is one of the most common names, and you can see that in Scripture. Joseph is one of the most common names. Yeshua is one of the most common names. So there's a good article from the Biblical Archaeological Society that you should probably read by Craig Evans and Stephen Feldman. And BAS, the Biblical Archaeological Society, is not a Christian evangelical organization. It's multiple people from different perspectives. They're not biblical literalists or anything like that. Now, honestly, I wish they were, because I think that helps. So I recommend people check out Bible and Spade. But here we're looking at this, and it gives some of the problems with this. Now, brother, I got to tell you, this would not do anything, even if this was accurate, to prove that Paul was an Edomite. Nothing at all. In fact, this is wrong on almost every count. Now, this is kind of a long article, but let me just take a look at a little bit of this, because I don't know if everyone's familiar with the so-called Tomb of Jesus thing. This has been debunked a long time ago. Now, they recently put this up because it keeps on coming back again, because all due respect, people like you keep on touting it out. But let's look at this. Rarely does the world of biblical archaeology make as much news as when filmmakers James Cameron, and I mentioned him earlier, and Simcha Jacoby announced at a press conference in late February 2007 that they had identified the remains of Jesus. Those remains, the two filmmakers claimed, had been in an ossuary or bone box inscribed Jesus, son of Joseph, that had been uncovered in 1980 during construction of an apartment building in the Jerusalem neighborhood of East Talpiot. As if that were not news enough, Cameron and Jacoby further claimed that the tomb also contained the ossuaries of Mary, the mother of Jesus, and of Mary Magdalene. And if that weren't enough, they went on to claim that another ossuary in the tomb inscribed Yehuda, son of Jesus, was the son of Jesus of Nazareth and of Mary Magdalene, who the filmmaker said were married. The Talpiot tomb, they conclude, was nothing less than the tomb of Jesus and his closest family. So whenever you want to, put something out there, I hope people know that what you got to do is you got to deal with criticism of the claim to see, if your theory can hold up properly. You know what I'm saying? That's what we want to do, and that's what we're helping you do right now here on this program today. And again, I appreciate you coming on to talk about these matters, because you definitely taught me some things, some of the people's relationship and things like that I didn't know. But some of what you're saying as far as the big points, I know is incorrect, with all due respect. So check this out here, because this will be good for everyone to hear about some of the problems with this. Cameron and Jacoby's views were elaborated soon after the press conference in The Lost Tomb of Jesus, a program that aired on the Discovery Channel. It did not take long for the criticism against the show's claims to mount. Some of the criticism was personal and ugly, sometimes motivated by a misguided sense of defending Christianity. Much of the criticism, however, came from scholars who raised substantial objections to the program's claims. Some quickly pointed out that the Talpiot tomb, cut into bedrock and containing niches for ossuaries, was a type of tomb popular among Jerusalem's wealthy in the 1st century. So my point by saying that is, these are wealthy people up in here, bro. Jesus ain't wealthy. Jesus' family was not wealthy, these scholars noted, and would not have had such a family tomb. Several other criticisms were raised. Jesus' family, coming from Galilee, would not have had a tomb in Jerusalem. If they had one at all, it would have been in their home region. The scholars also noted that the purported ossuary of Jesus is described simply as Jesus, son of Joseph. People from outside Judea, these scholars argued, would have been called by their city or region of origin. Mary of Magdala, Paul of Tarsus, and indeed Jesus of Nazareth. They give examples there. Scholars also pointed out that Jesus in the Gospels is invariably called Jesus of Nazareth and not Jesus, son of Joseph, which is how the Talpiot ossuary is inscribed. Other objections included the fact that the Jesus ossuary contained no title, such as Master or Messiah, that we might expect Jesus' earliest followers to have inscribed on the bone box of their revered teacher. Also missing was any history of veneration of the Talpiot tomb. So meaning we have no evidence from prior to this that was what it was, but you would have needed that if it was going to be that, because these people would have known where it was and made a big deal about it. You see what I'm saying? But we don't have a trail of that or a train of that. So that's a problem to be like, oh, now we found it, right? Do you guys understand that? Okay, keep on going. Also missing was any history of veneration of the Talpiot tomb as the burial place of Jesus. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, in contrast, was thought by early Christians to be the site of Jesus' death and burial as far back as the 2nd century. None of the preceding objections are by themselves strong enough to be fatal to the claim that the Talpiot tomb was the tomb of Jesus and his family, but note that every one of those objections has to be wrong for the claim to be right. Even if one of those objections is correct, the Talpiot tomb is not the tomb of Jesus of Nazareth. But for the sake of argument, let's assume that these these objections are indeed all wrong. Even if we grant that Jesus' family had a tomb in Jerusalem and not in Galilee, that they could afford and had desire to own a rock-cut family tomb of the type favored by Jerusalem's wealthy, that Jesus' ossuary would have been inscribed simply as Jesus, son of Joseph, and not Jesus of Nazareth, or with the title Master or Messiah, and that the early Christian community in Jerusalem not only would have forgotten where their leader had been buried, but would later come up with an entirely spurious tradition that he was buried where the Holy Sepulchre would later be built. If we assume all that, how strong a case do the makers of the lost tomb of Jesus have? The answer is surprisingly a weak one. When the Talpiot tomb was discovered in 1980, the excavators found 10 ossuaries inside. 6 were inscribed. In addition to the one inscribed Jesus, son of Joseph, there were ossuaries inscribed Miriam, Mara, Maria, Matthias, Judah, son of Jesus, and Jose. The Miriam Mara inscription is written in Greek letters. The others are in Hebrew Aramaic. The Miriam Mara ossuary is the key to the filmmaker's argument, and it is the one over which their claims are particularly unconvincing. They argue that Miriam, one of several Greek variations of the Hebrew name Miriam, refers to none other than Mary Magdalene. The name Mary, too, derives from Miriam. They point to the 4th century apocryphal work Acts of Philip, in which a woman named Miriam plays a prominent role. The filmmakers, basing themselves on an interpretation by Francois Bavon, I remember what he said, of the Harvard Divinity School, argue that Miriam was thought by the author of Acts of Philip to be Mary Magdalene. Real quick, I know I'm reading kind of fast, but real quick, if that last line is right, then I just want to correct a mistake I think I might have made earlier. When I was quoting Bavon earlier, I thought he was not for it, but it appears, if this is right, that he was for it. So I may have misunderstood what I was reading earlier. I hope everyone understands what I'm saying there. So if that's the case, my bad on that. It looks like he would be for it, not against it, based upon this article. So I must have misunderstood what he was saying there. That's my fault. There are several severe problems with this theory, however. The Miriam in the Acts of Philip is not identified as Mary Magdalene and does not do any of the notable things Mary Magdalene does in the Gospels. So what they're saying is, for this apocryphal work to be identifying the same people, that you would have to have their biographies match up, but they don't match. For example, Mary Magdalene is healed by Jesus in Luke 8:8. His witnesses to Jesus' place of burial in Mark 15, and his witness to the resurrection of Jesus in Mark 16. The Marian of the Acts of Philip also does numerous things for which we have no parallel in the gospel accounts, such as converting talking animals and slaying a dragon. That's what's in the Acts of Philip. Indeed, the Miriam of the Acts of Philip is identified as the sister of Martha. So whatever we are to make of the Miriam of the Acts of Philip, she is not Mary Magdalene. In fact, the source itself doesn't even say that. But even if we accept Bavon's theory, I did misunderstand the source earlier. I apologize for that. When I was reading about Bavon earlier, I apologize for that. That the Miriam of the Acts of Philip was meant to be Mary Magdalene, and Bavon has recently stated that he does not think Miriam is the real name of the historical Magdalene. Oh, so wait, maybe I didn't misunderstand. Well, now this is a little confusing. What bearing does a 4th century work composed far from Palestine, probably in Asia Minor, have on 1st century artifacts from Jerusalem? Now, I don't know if we want to keep on going on, but the rest of this is showing how this is not Mary Magdalene. That it gets more technical at that point. That's what a lot of the rest of this is. Then it gets into some other people. Now, I don't know I'm reading fast, but I'm just trying to show everybody this. But Lewis, it's not Mary Magdalene, bro. It's not.
Okay, can I respond?
Yeah, of course.
First of all, you made a claim that Jesus was not rich, therefore he wouldn't have a tomb in would you say Bethlehem, or was it Nazareth?
It's not just about the location; it's the type of tomb. This is something that upper class people had.
Hold on, let me respond to that. That's been contested by scholars like Bart Ehrman. Joseph of Arimathea, who took cross up to Christ in the coin Greek, was rich. He was wealthy. He would have had guards at the tomb where Jesus was because he was wealthy, despite the fact Jesus was not wealthy.
Lewis.
Second thing,
hold on. If Jesus was wealthy, why did he have to borrow Joseph of Arimathea's tomb in the first place, Lewis?
I didn't say Jesus was wealthy. I said Joseph of Arimathea, who took Jesus up the cross, was wealthy. He was rich.
Yeah, but what does this tomb have to do with Joseph of Arimathea?
According to the coin Greek, which has multiple errors in it, for example, it says that Jesus went to Simon the leper. Remember the story when he went to Simon the leper?
Yeah.
But and look at that in the Aramaic Bible, Peshitta Bible, it says he's Simon the potter. So there's 2 Greek words in question, Gabora and Gabara. So the coin Greek mistakes just him as a leper, Simon the leper, when he was really in the pottery. It's the wrong Greek word. The Greek has issues. But let's go back on point. If you could type in Orpheus crucified real quick on images. So
Oh,
the Koine Greek gets it wrong. It calls him Simon the leper, but
Wait,
he was
wait,
really
wait.
a potter. He wasn't
But
leprous.
Lewis, you got to learn how to put your arguments together. Let's just say everything
I'm
you're
putting
saying
them
is.
together.
Let's just
We're
say what you're
addressing.
saying is right. That doesn't prove anything about this being Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, I'm about to prove that now. So there was a biblical scholar. I believe his name was George Morton Smith, if I'm not mistaken. He got fired from Harvard or Harvard University. He found a 5th century document where Jesus had wives and children with Mary Magdalene. And he had a couple other wives. This is substantiated by a scholar named Tony Bushby, who writes a book called The Bible Fraud. Excellent book you should read.
How do you know the
So,
5th century document is right, bro?
of course, I'm going to prove it's right. So, let me get the guy's name verbatim. I might have
Okay,
got the name.
what does Jesus having wives and children, how does that prove Paul was an Edomite, though?
Yes. So, if you read the Talmud, we can look at the Talmud, right?
Yeah, what does that have to do with anything,
Jesus'
though?
mother Mary was a descendant of King Herod. That was
No,
Mary. Jesus' mother was.
the Talmud makes a lot of claims about Jesus and his lineage, and the most prominent is that he was the son of a Roman soldier and therefore a bastard. And the Roman soldier's
Yes, I'm not
name,
talking about
the Roman soldier's
Pandora.
name is supposed to be
Pandora.
Pantera.
Correct. No, I'm talking about Jesus' mother, not his father. His mother was the daughter of Herod, Herod the
So
Great.
so Herod's son was a Roman soldier?
No, Jesus had a father and a mother. His mother, Mary, was the granddaughter of King Herod the Great, and that's in the Talmud. Okay, these were all in the 1st century. This could be Hosea 6:2. Before we go to Hosea 6, I want to show you guys something real quick. Type in real quick if you could, brother. Orpheus crucified. I want to show you guys something. Then we're gonna go to Hosea 6:2. Type in
Oh,
Orpheus crucified.
oh
I'm gonna show that the
no.
crucifixion, which is
Oh
fiction,
no, you can't use this. Don't you know that this image is shown to be a fraud? You don't
it's
want
a
to.
fraud.
Yeah, you don't want to
But let's look
use
at it. Let's look
this.
at it. I'm gonna show you it's not a fraud.
Oh no, I already know what you're talking about. You're talking about the
Yeah,
book.
so the people may not know though, brother.
This
The
was
people
on the
may not be
cover of
privy.
freaking Gandhi's book.
If you could pull it out so the people can see it, I'm gonna show you it's not a fraud.
Yeah, this even freaking Gandhi know it's a fraud.
Okay, I'm gonna address that. Give me if you could pull it up on the screen so people can see it.
Oh man, buddy, this is bad though, man. You got to understand, like, so here we are. We're in straight frauds now, man, and they even know it. See, they put this on the cover of their book, Jesus Mysteries. Do you see this?
Of course, I have this book. It's a must read, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, don't you know that the cover image has been known to be a fraud?
Okay, prove that. Go ahead.
Oh man, this is
Hold on. Remember, Orpheus is a god before Christ. Would you agree?
no, he's not a god at all. He doesn't exist.
Okay, Orpheus never exists. Okay, go ahead. Make your point. Prove what you're saying. Prove all things.
Yeah. Yeah. This amulet's a fraud, man.
Prove it. Prove that.
Okay, well, we're going to have to read from article again. Oh, man.
Hold on. If we read that, that's all we see in there. That's not Jesus. That's Orpheus. And
I
he's being
know
hung
it's,
on the
I
cross.
know that, I know it's
And the
not
people may not know, brother.
Jesus.
The people may not know. The people may not know. That's Orpheus, a Greek god. I believe a Greek god, I believe he was. He's being hung on a cross. This is not Jesus. It looks like it's Jesus, but this is Orpheus who lived hundreds of years before Christ. He's crucified. Go ahead.
Yeah, we know that that's what they're claiming. But the amulet they're portraying is a fake.
Prove that. Give me the scholar who said it was fake. Go ahead.
All right. The amulet originated in Italy. It was purchased by one E. Gerhard, whose entire collection ended up in the Kaiser Friedrich Museum in Berlin. There it was studied by the German epigrapher Otto Kern, who included it in his seminal collection of Orphic fragments in 1922. Its inclusion in this book meant that several other scholars assumed that it was genuine, this is at the time, including the English historian of Greek religion, Guthrie, whose Orpheus in Greek religion came out in 1935. Kern himself reviewed Guthrie's book on pages 473 to 8 of a German journal called Nome. That same year, Guthrie had discussed the amulet at some length in his book, see page 265, the second edition from 1952, where he dismisses the idea that there was a tradition of crucified Orpheus. He points out rightly that Justin Martyr, in his first apology, chapter 55, writing in the 2nd century, had specifically ruled this out, passage tendentially not quoted by freaking Gandhi. However, unknown to Guthrie, an article had appeared in a journal called Alelos, issue 2, 1926. The title of this journal is Greek for Angelos. Sorry, Angelos. That's the way it is pronounced, I believe. It is Greek for messenger, from which we get the word angel. Analyzing this amulet and coming to the conclusion that it was almost certainly a fake. Kern, in his review, pointed this article out with the words: "It is evidently escaped Guthrie's notice that the amulet with the image of the crucifix and the inscription," and there's what it says on there, Orpheus Bacchios, I believe. Let me make sure that's right. Yeah, Bacchikos, Orpheus Bacchikos, and the Kaiser Friedrich Museum in Berlin is almost certainly a fake. One must grant credibility to such outstanding connoisseurs of this material as John Rail and Rob Zahn, who asserted this, that the amulet is a fake, and then they named the article there. So this is known to be fake for quite a while here. And one must not be put off by the fact that this Italian counterfeiter, like so many, the amulet is from Italy and came from E. Gerhard's estate to the museum in Berlin, possessed some learning and knew of the connection of Orpheus to Bacchus. This led Guthrie to add an endnote, so it's just going on how people have known this as a forgery, okay? And now let's talk about the reasons here. And this is even, this is something that even secular scholars have recognized, okay? This is not a Christian thing. Number one, the depiction of the crucified figure is medieval rather than late antique. The cross is Latin in shape, as in latter depictions of crucifixion rather than T-shaped Christ and other variants typical before 500. So the shape of the cross shows it's later, not earlier. The depiction of the crucified figure as alone, without crucifiers, co-crucified, or devotees, is unparalleled in antiquity and only appears later. The image of the moon and seven stars is very strange, but maybe a later development in the early symbolic use of sun and moon images of crucifixion, where the sun removed in response to the claim in the Synoptic Gospels that the sun was darkened. So this is something from later. It's a fraud. And now here's what's interesting about this. They say it was confirmation of this theory, but not so much. Now, this is a long article about this, but this is a pretty known thing that this is fraudulent, and they put it on the cover of their book and later tried to excuse it. But this Orpheus amulet is after Christ.
Okay, hold on. Let me respond to that, if I could.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Well, this is whole the popcorn and kettle black fallacy. First thing, this is an excellent book you should read by Julian Doyle called Crucifixion. You got that book, Crucifixion and Doodle by Julian Doyle?
No, I don't have that book. A lot of the stuff you're
referencing. Excellent book you should read by Julian Doyle.
A lot of the stuff you're telling me to read is by people who are not specialists in the field and who are cranks.
Okay, hold on. Can I just finish my point?
And quacks, but yes, go ahead.
It's an excellent book by Crucifixion by Julian Doyle. He wrote an excellent book called Crucifixion and Doodle, so must read. So he shows in his work how the Romans crucified so many Jews. You ready? They crucified so many Jews that they ran out of wood. That's how common crucifixion was by the Romans. You with me?
I'm listening.
They crucified so many Jewish people. According to Julian Doyle's work, he says it's an exaggeration, but they crucified so many Jews, the Romans, that they ran out of wood. Okay, crucifixion was the capital punishment before Jesus lived. They were crucifying
that's true.
That's true.
The
first century.
That's
long
true.
Before the first century. Yes, thank you. Long before the first century, when Jesus lived, people were being crucified wholesale. So that's that. Second thing, as the book is called Crucifixion by Julian Doyle. Third thing, hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Third point, there's no images of Jesus up on the cross, because he said this is 4th century. There's no images of Jesus on the cross in any church anywhere in history before the 7th century.
Bro.
Right? Let me finish my
First
point.
of all, the earliest Christians didn't have buildings, first of all. Second of all, we have really early inscriptions, the Alexander graffiti, basically, from the Roman barracks. It's not debunked. It says Alex Rabanus or whatever worships his god, and it's a donkey on a cross.
Yeah, there's a donkey
it's
head.
making fun of the Christians, and that's an early example.
That's debunked.
Bro, what you're saying is not true, first of all. Second of all, the earliest Christians wouldn't depict anything like this anyway, because they were hesitant to depict Jesus, number one. Now, they got over that and they started drawing him and this and that. But also, it was not considered regular in good company. You wouldn't even talk about crucifixion, so you're not going to portray him that way. A lot of that's later
Hold on.
developments. But
Stop there
here,
for a second.
none of that proves that this amulet is true. This amulet's
Let
a
me
fraud,
respond to that.
bro.
Stop there for a second. You made a claim. Let me respond. It was Pope hate. There was two councils in Nicaea. The first council in Nicaea was with Constantine. Would you agree?
What?
There were
What'd you
two
say?
Nicene councils. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, there's 2 Nicene councils. Yeah, that's
There
accurate.
was
You
one in
could say.
325. And what was the second one?
I forgot the exact date. I could look it up.
700s, the mid 700s AD. Why
Okay.
is that relevant? At any rate,
It's
can I
not.
respond?
Yeah, it's not relevant.
It's relevant because it was Pope Hadrian and the Second Nicene Council who said, okay, from now on, we're going to use the cross as a symbol of worship and veneration. This is why you don't see any pictures of Jesus on the cross until after the Second Council of Nicaea.
That's not
Because it was Pope, hold
true.
on, I'm almost done. Now, it was Pope Hadrian who said, okay, now we're going to use the cross as a symbol of veneration. That was
Ha-
at the
Wait,
Second Nicene
Hadrian?
Council.
Hadrian said that?
Not Emperor Hadrian
Oh,
from the
okay,
first
okay.
century. Pope Hadrian.
Okay,
It was two
gotcha.
different Hadrians. A
Yeah,
different
yeah,
Hadrian.
gotcha. I just want to make sure who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, listen.
He's the one who said, now we're going to use the cross as a symbol of worship. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me read to you. Do you know who Richard Carrier is?
Of course, on his work. Yeah.
Okay, Richard Carrier is a hardcore Christ mythicist, correct?
Yes, correct.
Here's what he said about the Jesus Mysteries book that has the amulet on the cover. This is Carrier. And
Before you do that, do you yield to that?
No, there were
Do you
earlier
yield to the fact there's no images of Jesus on the cross?
There were earlier
before the seventh
images.
century?
No, I already told you why I didn't agree, and I gave you one example from a person who was making fun of Christians.
Outside of the donkey-headed image.
That's not the only one. Now, if we're gonna, first
me
of
another
all,
one. Put it up on the screen.
first of all, that's all we need. First of all,
How so?
second of all, let me just since you're gonna do this, Lewis, it's even in the manuscripts themselves. So if you look at these early Christian manuscripts they have something called the sacred names or the nomina sacra, right? And in that, we have examples of scribes and people who copied early New Testament documents doing different things where whenever they would come upon a certain name that had significance to them, they would shorten it and abbreviate it with the first Greek character and the second Greek character and put a line over it so you can know. You can literally see these in the manuscripts online. This is something that people have talked about. I did an interview with my channel, Larry Hurtado. Can Dinu or Nate, please, and shout out to you guys, by the way, love y'all. Can you look up Larry Hurtado, Hurtado, in my YouTube channel and grab that interview with Hurtado because he talks about this. So I want to talk about this more. He talks about something called the starogram. The starogram was where they would come upon the word for cross in the Greek New Testament. And whenever they would do it, they would abbreviate it with the first Greek character and the second Greek character and put a line over it, and it would even form like a cross shape in the letter itself, and this was done intentional, and this is in the manuscripts itself. Now, here's my point by saying that. When they would have the word for cross, they would basically make almost a word picture using the starogram, Staurogram. Now, I'm probably not explaining it as good as Hurtado can explain it, but my point is, even in the manuscript itself, you have evidence about Jesus being crucified with the very, very way that the word was written for cross, which is staros.
Hold on. Stop there for a second.
Okay.
That's been contested.
That's not debunked. It's literally
let
there.
Me respond. You made a statement. Let me respond to that.
I've seen the Greek
the original word, because I study Greek. I don't know if you study Greek. The original word for crucifix. Hold on, can I finish? And I yield, brother. Yeah. The word for crucifix is starios. Starios.
That's what I just said.
Means,
I just said that.
Hold on. Can I just finish? Then just give me 10 seconds and I yield. And lay my plane. Starios never means a piece of wood imposed on another piece of wood. It's making a T symbol. That was representative of Tammuz. Tammuz was the ancient goddess. So starios never means two pieces of wood imposed on top of each other to make a cross. Starios is one single piece of wood that people would impale people with. The original word for crucifix is starios. It doesn't even mean what we see today, like Jesus on the cross. It doesn't mean that. Go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna have to show you exactly what I'm talking about. This is from a Greek manuscript of the New Testament itself, and pictured right there is a starogram, and then they show you a close-up of what it looks like, and so that is right there, staron, and then it's abbreviated with the line, and it literally forms the cross. Do you see what I'm saying? It's literally in the manuscripts itself. It's a written picture. And so you have the symbol for the cross of Christ with the ta on the row, and it essentially, and I'm reading here, poetically forges what is the oldest pictorial representation of Christ. And that's from Bodmer, Papyrus 75. So it's literally...
What's the date on this?
It's literally there. Bodmer 75. I'm going to look it up right now. Bodmer, Papyrus 75.
What's the date on that? What's the date on this?
I'm looking it up. My goodness.
Go ahead.
And by the way, that's from Luke 14. Shout out to the super chat here. And by the way, this is all interesting, but none of it proves Paul's an Edomite. Shout out to TK for the super chat. So if you look on the screen, that's from Luke chapter 14. Now, I'm going to tell you where Bodmer 75, the date on it, because I know it's very early, and I want to show you this, all right? And you can read it online, okay? Here it is. Ba-da-ba-da-ba. The date assigned to it is 225, bro. 225. Look up Papyrus 75 online, which I just showed you. 225, that's way earlier than 7th century. Let's look at Papyrus 75 again here. Okay, and you can read more about it. 225, some go as early as 175. So it has a starogram, and that's just the example that I was showing you. It's not the only example of the starogram. So what you're saying is just not true, man. It's earlier than 7th century.
Now, that's bogus.
Shout out. How's it bogus? I just showed you a manuscript with your own two eyes.
Okay, no problem. Brother, hold on. It's based on carbon dating?
No. Okay, Lewis. Again.
How'd they date the coin? How'd they date it?
I'm gonna tell you, Lewis. You have a lot of information in your head, and so I do not discount some interesting factoids you've picked up in your research. I respect that, and I appreciate that. And so there may be places when it comes to sort of Bible trivia that you may know the answer and I don't. And there's been some places that you showed me things tonight, and I appreciate that. But, Lewis, I say all that complimenting you, and I mean what I'm saying, to now have to, in a very kind of way as I can, to chastise you a little bit, to show in this area, I don't claim to be the world's topmost expert. I'm just a guy learning and reading, but I'm showing you the stuff with your own two eyes. You haven't clearly studied ancient manuscripts. You told me you studied Koine Greek, and I'm going to tell you why. You said, how did they do that? You said, was it through carbon dating? Lewis, and I love you. But if you had studied how they date early New Testament manuscripts, you would know they would never use carbon dating. I'm going to tell you why. And everyone who looks into this knows this, Lewis. Because carbon dating requires the subject under discussion to partially be destroyed. They have to burn it. New Testament manuscripts are never going to be purposely burned just to try to get the idea of the date. Now, sometimes you'll have other material with it, and they're willing to do that. They would never test a New Testament manuscript in this way, with rare exception. It's done through paleography. That's handwriting analysis. That's the key way that it's done, paleography. And that's how they know.
Who came up with that? Who invented that?
Nobody came up with it, brother. Paleography is something that every field of ancient history has to use. Because we don't get to always go around burning stuff to determine the date. Paleography is a key way to determine the dates of almost all ancient documents, Lewis. Very rarely do we have a full thing that says this was written on that date. Sometimes we do. But even if it's written on that date, that's different than when that particular copy existed. So paleography is handwriting analysis, in this case, ancient handwriting analysis, and they never rely on one person. They get different dates from different people, and sometimes the dates change over time based upon new information analysis. So notice this. You first contended we didn't have any examples of the cross in any kind of form until the 7th century. I brought up the Alexander graffiti. You said it's been debunked. Then I showed you the starogram.
Brother, that's not what I said.
Okay.
You misrepresented what I said.
But then I showed you the starogram, and I showed you how that was earlier.
Brother, you misinterpreted me. You misrepresented what I said, brother.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I repeat what I said, please?
Yes, real quick. Shout out to the Israelite camp killer, and he says freestyle time. I think they want me to end this. And also to Joy Camacho. Shout out to you. And I hope people are learning something from this, because I know it gets a little confusing at points. But go ahead. Tell us what you said, and then we're going to have to wrap this up.
Yeah, certainly. I'm on the East Coast, and it was already 12 o'clock. So I never said there was no images of the cross. I said there's no images of Jesus hung up on a cross.
Yeah. Yeah.
In any church, hold on, let me finish. In any church or monastery, with him literally, not a cross, him hanging on it till after the 7th century. Why? Because Pope Hadrian said, okay, now we're going to use the cross as a symbol of veneration. That was at the Second Nicene Council. This way, you don't see any artwork with Jesus hung on the cross, not a depiction mocking him, but literally him himself. White or black, doesn't matter. Until after the 7th century, because it was Hadrian who came with that law.
Okay. My point with whatever went down was, first of all, the only place you're gonna see Christian art, if we want to call it that, is not only going to be in churches. Number one, so that your whole premise with putting that forward shows a problem in your whole premise. There's other places to see Christian art. For example, catacombs. That's where we see the earliest Christian art. But also, when you understand that the manuscripts are in themselves early Christian artifacts, and that's what Larry Hurtado's book is called. It's called Earliest Christian Artifacts, in which he discusses this. You see that the manuscripts themselves are artifacts. They're physical things handled by early Christians. So when we study those, we see the starogram. So the idea of it having to be on a church wall or something is totally ludicrous and shows a lack of familiarity with where Christians were hanging out and drawing stuff, basically, to put it in a simple manner or term, including catacombs and including in the manuscripts. So here's what we need to understand. Yeah, okay.
What was the name of the council where Christian artwork was the band was looking on Christian artwork? What was the name of the council?
I don't know the answer.
You don't know?
That's, yeah, I could look that up and we could look into that, but that's not relevant to this discussion.
Council of Villia. That's when they lifted the ban on Christian artwork. But anyway,
brother, Christians were already drawing stuff. Have you not seen the Good Shepherd images that are from the catacombs? This is something that anyone who studied early Christian history, you have to look up each individual catacomb. But this is something that
the youngest one, the earliest one.
When you're okay, I can look it up. But here's the thing: when you do, anyone who looks into this, you stumble upon these things nonstop. They're all over the sources. So it's not like there's just
the earliest catacomb images of what you explained. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. I don't like going down rabbit trails.
No problem. It's your show. You don't want to do it, that's fine.
No, I'm looking up. I'm looking up some of this. I'm looking up the catacomb art, okay?
Because that's a fact that Pope Hadrian came up with that. That's not dispute. That's a fact.
Oh, there's people that are doing stuff. The main place that you find this early Christian art is from the periods 200 to 400. Now, again, I don't mind talking about this in one sense because it's interesting Christian history, but it's totally irrelevant to your thesis that Paul was an Edomite. So here's from the Liturgical Arts Journal. You can find this stuff everywhere. Okay, so this is Sean Tribe, author, September 2022, Paleo-Christian Art of the Roman Catacombs. Rome is famously known for its catacombs, and in point of fact, there are some 40 catacombs to be found around the Eternal City. These catacombs are all underground and could be easily missed by pilgrims as it requires venturing outside the walls. For reason there was an ancient Roman law banning burials within the city's limits. All right, tracking so far, these burial chambers were used by many different people, Christian, non-Christian alike, beginning around the 2nd century AD. But of course, we know them especially in relation to being a place where popes and Roman martyrs were frequently buried. Aside from being important places of pilgrimage, the catacombs are also important as sites because they contain some of the earliest extant, that means existing, examples of Paleo-Christian art and iconography dated from 80 to 204 period. So there's your answer. Now let's continue reading though. That's the answer, and that's earlier than the 7th century. I just point out to you. Here we found everything from early Christian graffiti.
Is he being hung on the cross in these catacombs?
Okay, so
remember he's being hung on the cross in any of these catacombs.
Well, we have to find the exact one to see that. But remember that.
Take your time.
No, it's not that. It's now that we're missing what I was saying. I wasn't claiming.
You can't show that, bro. It don't exist.
First of all, okay, it does exist because of the Alexander graffiti. That you're done with that.
Hold on, brother.
Okay,
vocab.
okay.
Vocab. Hold on, vocab.
Yeah,
not an image mocking Christ.
Oh,
Christ
no, hold
himself
on,
on
bro,
the cross.
You don't get to do that where you act like you get to tell us what it has to only be and what it can't be. You don't get
I'm
to
not
do that.
disputing
It gets to
hold on, hold on. Let me make this clear for the audience.
if one of the examples is someone mocking Christ, then that's in the example. You don't get to say that doesn't
No.
count. Number
Let me
one.
ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
No,
brother.
don't hold on right now. Number one, you don't get to artificially limit the evidence to only being by Christians venerating Jesus when we're talking about this. Number one. Number two, none of this proves Paul was an Edomite, so you're totally out in left field with even discussing this. Number three, what I was saying about the catacomb art was not that I knew for certain there was indications of Jesus being crucified in the catacomb art. My point by saying is you're off base by thinking the only place you need to look for early Christian art is in Christian churches. That was my point by that.
Stop there. Okay,
And if you rewind the tape, as the old timers say, you'll find that was my point to say you don't know where to look for Christian art. Not that Jesus was buried there. Now remember, as the example I gave by Christians himself was the starogram, and then I literally showed you a picture with your own two eyes on the screen and gave a link to an interview that goes more in depth with the starogram. I literally showed that to you. Then you doubted the early provenance of the Bodmer papyri. Then we showed you it was early. Then you asked did they do carbon-14, and I had explained to you the science of paleography. This whole conversation, you've been out in left field. Now we're going to look at this graffiti, and it's going to be one more example. Go ahead, ask the question.
Do you have a catacomb image dated to 200 to 400 with Christ being crucified? Just answer the yes or no.
I already answered about my point by bringing that up was not for that.
That's just a yes or no answer, brother. Don't dance.
My point was not saying that. My point was saying that's one of the places where you.
I'm asking that's your point. I'm asking, do you have a catacomb image from the 200s that you just quoted?
No, 200 to 400. 200 to 400. Remember, I told you Christians were
hesitant. Do you have an image from 200 to 400 him being crucified? Yes or no?
Yes, and that's on the screen. It's on the screen. It's from 200, and it's on the screen. You're literally asking me a question that is on the screen.
Hold on, brother.
Just look on the screen. Jesus. Let's go ahead.
That's not Jesus. And if you read the same article he's quoting from, Wikipedia, which I've seen this source, and I've destroyed it, it tells you this is not Jesus.
How do you destroy a source?
Okay, click out and go back to the Wikipedia article and go to the bottom of the screen.
How do you destroy a source?
Scholars can't even agree. Hold on, brother. The scholars don't even agree this is Jesus. The scholars don't even agree on this. And they don't know when it was drawn. Go down to the bottom. You'll see they say this is the Egyptian god Anubis.
I'll bite. Tell us then, who is the god depicted on the cross there, buddy?
I'm gonna go down, scroll down, because I've seen this article multiple times.
Who is the god? Who is the god?
We're gonna look at it now. Go down to where it says.
Who is this god?
Go down to where it says interpretation. Go up a little bit.
This god.
Interpretation. I should say Anubis somewhere. You should see that. It says. It's kind of hard to see. You know.
You think this is supposed to be?
The scholars disagree.
So did Anubis die on a cross?
It should say Anubis there. You see it says Ampuk. It's the same God. You see that? It says,
did Anubis?
I can barely see it.
It doesn't say Anubis in its entry anywhere.
Yes, it does. Let me put it
I just controlled F Anubis. No, it doesn't.
It might say Ampuk because that's the same God.
Oh, okay. Well, since we're here, let's read the interpretation. The inscription is usually taken to be a mocking depiction of Christian act of worship. At the time, pagans derided Christians for worshiping a man who had been crucified. The donkey's head and crucifixion would have both been considered insulting depictions by contemporary Roman society. Crucifixion continued to be used as an execution method for the worst criminals until its abolition by the Emperor Constantine in the 4th century, and the impact of seeing a figure on a cross is comparable to the impact today of portraying a man with a hangman's noose around his neck or seated in an electric chair. It seems to have been commonly believed at the time that Christians practiced donkey worship. Now, I've read these sources directly by Romans, making fun of Christians for this, and sometimes even Jews. In fact, I did a paper in seminary talking about the 10 most prominent earliest Christian critics. Critics of Christianity. And I did a program on this when I did a program called Backpack Radio and talked about this. This is a common thing, and so that's one of the reasons we know what this is. What you're talking about is not even an entry, and you told us it was. Now, continuing on. That was based on the misconception that Jews, remember I said Jews too? I didn't even run that next line, and I already knew that. Worshipped a god in the form of a donkey, a claim made by Apion, and it gives the date there, and denied by Josephus in his aptly titled work Against Apion. So this is there's a historical trail to what I'm saying. Unlike what you're saying, and I just remind you, Lewis, none of this proves Paul was an Edomite, because he wasn't. You never have been able to prove that this whole show. Origen reports in his treatise Contra Celsum that the pagan philosopher Celsus made the same claim against Christians and Jews. Tertullian, writing in the late 2nd, 3rd century, reports Christians along with Jews were accused of worshiping such a deity. He also mentions an apostate Jew who carried around Carthage a character of a Christian with ass's ears and hooves, labeled the God of the Christians conceived of an ass. So this is a common trope against us going way back then. So you denying it just shows you got a problem, and it never says Anubis in this entry. It also been suggested that both the graffito and the roughly contemporary gems with crucifying images are related to heretical groups outside the church. In the image, Alexamenos is portrayed venerating an image of the crucifix, a detail that Peter Master believed to represent actual Christian practice of veneration of icons. This practice, however, was not known to be part of Christian worship until 4th or 5th century. So, bro, you are off in every single way imaginable, and I don't understand how any of this proves Paul was an Edomite. It doesn't. Now, we've really got to go. We've been talking for 2 hours. We said we were going to do this for 1 hour.
It's been 2 hours already. Wow.
Yeah, can you get the final word? But I just want to reiterate all the things you brought up that got debunked, and all the points you asserted that never were proven, even when they weren't debunked. But you can have the final word, and I'll give a shout out to live chat. I love y'all. I appreciate you guys sticking through with this on this. Go ahead, Lewis. And if you want, while you're talking, I'll put your website on the screen one more time so everyone can see it. Certainly. So hopefully you get some money to buy some more books by actual scholars. And the first one you should get, Lewis, is where Ehrman destroys freaking Gandhi's Jesus Mysteries book and calls it non-scholarship, and Carrier, who says that it infects the brain. The people who are big in this field for the Christ myth and for the non-Christian position about this, and you brought them up, Ehrman specifically, numerous times, they believe that book is poppycock. And one of the best examples that you'll find everywhere who has studied the freaking Gandhi book with the Orpheus amulet is because the amulet itself is a fraud, and so it doesn't prove anything about first century Christian history. But go ahead, you got the final word.
Right. So he didn't show any catacomb images with Jesus on a cross. He failed to do that. Also, he showed a donkey hand image mocking Christ when nobody would ever hang that up in the church because it's a mockery. I asked him for an image of Jesus himself, not being mocked, but really him. His response to that was hermeneutic was, you can't limit me to those hermeneutic. Anyway, it was an honor to be on, man. My name is Rabbi Lewis again. That's my new website. I drop ship. It was a really honor to be on the show again. Hopefully this khutbah, which means lecture, was edifying, man. Thank you so much. Okay, it was an honor, brother.
All right, I appreciate it. And the website is rabbilewis123.myshopify.com. And we're not against Lewis. That's why I'm willing to show, his website here. We're all for people getting their bread. You know what I mean? We're not against that. I want you to succeed in life, and part of you succeeding in life will be to stop reading freaking Gandhi. With that, we end the show.
Yeah, I know it's an economic show. Thanks for letting me plug that, man. It was an honor, brother. And I'm also a published author. Go to Amazon, type in Rabbi, as you saw, and check my workout. Thank you, Vocab.
All right, no doubt. God bless. Peace.